Tuolumne County. It's time for the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors, as irregular as this will be today. So please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As most of you know, we have an unusual situation. We have a small emergency called a fire. It's growing rapidly, and we have a member of the Forest Service, Mr. Schneider, here today, and we've asked him here to give us an update on the conditions out there. So, Mr. Schneider, would you please?
Good morning. I'm Jerry Snyder. I'm the Forest Public Affairs Officer for the Stanislaus National Forest. And just 24 hours ago, we were only about 1,000 acre and burned, and now it appears we're at 11,000 acres burned. It quickly expanded yesterday out of the Tuolumne River Canyon up the other side to the south and across Highway 108, which prompted Highway 120 into Yosemite National Park. As it crossed over, then there were closures of the Highway 120 starting at Smith Station and moving past Buck Meadows. Buck Meadows, the community of Buck Meadows, was evacuated, along with a number of organizational camps that we had there, the San Jose camp, Berkeley camp areas. The Yosemite National Park did close the westbound lanes of Highway 120, and therefore the traffic was only going for egress to the east and could go through the park to get out. Really some heroic efforts there. I think probably one of our big problems is we lost our air support during the day to a fire in Southern California where several homes were threatened. We've got that air support back today, but of course it's really taken its toll. As you can see on the map behind me, it has expanded, most of it to the south and east, and starting across Highway 120 into the Pilot Ridge area. These areas have burned previously, and the other side of the fire has burned now across the Clavey River and is going up to the northwest on that side. Probably the biggest impact people are feeling right now, other than those that had to leave the area, and many people are wanting to get back in. They've left personal property, vehicles, luggage, and the like behind. We've got many ranchers that are very concerned about their animals that they'd like to get out as well. And we just don't have a clear picture right now when people will be able to get back in there. The Incident Command Post, which is at Drew Meadow on Cherry Lake Road, was threatened for a time yesterday. They did get a dozer line around it. They did downsize personnel, get them out of camp there, but they haven't had to move. So they're still in place there, and that's where they're operating out of. Additional to the communities that were evacuated, the Groveland Ranger District office was evacuated yesterday. It looks like they'll be able to get back in there, which is very helpful. There are communication assets there that we can use. That's been a real problem for this fire. We're in a very remote area, and so cell service and other communication was very late coming. It looks like today we'll have the equipment arriving that'll help improve the situation dramatically. As far as personnel goes, we've asked for additional crews to be assigned to the fire. Right now we have a total of 455 firefighting personnel on scene. The aircraft probably will vary through the day, but it looks like we'll have at least 4 tankers, a helicopter, and an air attack spotter plane for us. And like I say, if we can get more assets coming in, we've got a call for that. It'll depend on what might be available from the other fires. If you've taken a look on a national scale, you can see that there are fires all over the western United States, several here in California. So we're sharing a lot of those resources, and you will see that other fires are maybe experiencing the same thing that we've had here on the Rim Fire, that assets had to go stop something that was terribly happening, and then we might be able to get those back as well as others. So it is a shared resources. Any questions I can answer for you?
Members of the board, any questions? How does this relate to where we had the 1987 complex fire?
It is in a similar footprint, although we're not anywhere close to the conflagration that we had there. However, things are setting up pretty poorly. For those of you that might remember way back then, there were a number of fires that were caused by lightning that burned together, and they'd burn better than 140,000 acres in '87. What we're looking at now is in a very similar footprint, but we don't have the lightning yet. But if you take a look at the weather, you can see that we may have some coming our way. What I've seen yesterday was further up country near the crest of the Sierra Nevada. But their weather indicates that it could be coming down to the lower mountain elevations, and that could be a problem for us. The fact that we've got the one fire now and we've got assets there may help us be able to control any lightning strikes that might occur during that time.
Is this the only fire right now in the Stanislaus? Because we did have a couple over in Calaveras, I heard.
Yeah, the large one over in Calaveras County wasn't actually on the Stanislaus. It was Natural Bridges, and it did put up a lot of smoke, and people were getting then smoke from both directions, especially here in Sonora. It didn't matter which way the wind was blowing, you were going to get smoke from one way or another. There was another small campfire that was put out in Calaveras. The Rim Fire was actually spotted while firefighters were fighting a Cottonwood Road fire on Saturday, and it was a fire aircraft that was flying over and spotted the Rim Fire in the Clavey River Canyon area. And so that's when we first were notified of that, and that one already was at 40 acres, so it grew very quickly in that canyon. And you probably should expect some smoke from the Power Fire up on Highway 108. Although it is completely contained, it's not out yet, and that means that interior to the containment, there may be some smoldering and burning along that steep slope as well.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Schneider. I appreciate you coming.
Just, will you be able to leave that map there for us?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out. Look forward to hearing more from you. Good news, I hope. Thank you. Okay. Because of the fire situation, I'm going to change the agenda a little bit. That's because we have our Assistant County Fire Warden here, Mr. Evans, and he needs to be here for item 22. So I'm going to take item 22 first, and then we'll do one more thing before we do consent calendar, I think. Okay. Oh, would you read the item, please? I'm sorry.
Consideration of accepting the staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant funds.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Roy Evans, Assistant County Fire Warden. I come to you this morning with what I think is fantastic news. My predecessor last year applied for what's called a SAFER grant, the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant. And this was in an effort to bolster some holes identified in the fire service in Tuolumne County, namely Jamestown. This grant is designed to bring on 4 additional fire apparatus engineers year-round, thus providing year-round coverage at Jamestown at a staffing level of 2.0. There is a county contribution. That grant does not pay for certain items. It doesn't pay for administrative costs or what they consider fringe benefits like uniform allowances. So the county's contribution to this grant is $31,656 per year. So my recommendation, or staff's recommendation to the board, is that you accept the SAFER grant.
Any questions? Supervisor?
Yes, this funding would allow us for that coverage for 2 years,
Correct.
Can we reapply?
We can reapply. They look at grant reapplications differently. They like to see some progress. So this year, we were awarded 4 positions. So if we look at doing this in future years, we need to reduce those numbers maybe by 50%. That just shows that we're doing everything that we possibly can to...
Yeah, I would suggest that we get that in the works as soon as we can. Because, as you stated in your information here, that Jamestown station is very important. It's one of the key.
It's extremely important. That station runs in the neighborhood of 800 calls during the 6 months it's open, so that is a significant impact.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Supervisor Royce?
Our portion, are we planning on funding that with contingencies from this year's budget, or?
No, the match that's referred to in here is already contained. We're already paying it. It's included in our existing budget, so
Okay,
there's no
perfect.
additional cost. I was going to comment, Mr. Chair, that there's actually a potential of additional funds where waiver would be sought. If you look at the additional cost of $232,000, we're talking about approximately $430,000 a year in funding through this grant. We're looking to see, that's more than what we need to accomplish this, so we're seeing if that difference between the additional cost and the grant can be used for other fire purposes, and our department is looking into waivers with FEMA to see how we could use that money. So this truly is very good news, and there may be more good news coming down the pike if we can use that.
Excellent. Supervisor Rutherford?
Yeah, this is something that's been, I think, a priority for my predecessor, and it's certainly been a priority for me. So I'm really glad that we're able to get this funding. I think it benefits the entire county because they respond all over the place, not just in District 5. So this is going to be a really good thing. I fully support it.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none. Mr. Rutherford, I think this is in your district.
I would like to move that the board approve accepting the SAFER grant money to keep the Jamestown Fire Department open year-round, and I would like to include also in the motion our gratitude for applying for and getting this grant. Thanks.
I will second that.
Thank you very much. Any final questions? Members of the public? This requires a 4/5 vote because it changes the budget, and there are only 4 of us here. I might comment.
Mr. Chair, this will only be a three-vote action. We'll incorporate this in the final budget, which will come to you next month.
It says 4/5.
That's
Okay, well, that's okay.
Not necessary.
I don't know that's a problem anyway, but I was going to comment that Supervisor Brennan, for those who wonder where she is on an important day like this, she's out in the fire area driving cattle away from the fire, those that belong to her and those that belong to other people. So our thoughts are with her, and we pray for her safety. So anyway, with that, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously with the absence of Supervisor Brennan. She'd vote, yeah, but we don't have abstention votes. Are we ready? Okay. One more comment before we go to the consent calendar. Last night at the emergency, what do you call it, the Emergency Control Center at Stryker Court, because of the situation, I took the prerogative as chairman of the board and the emergency services director for the county to declare a state of local emergency relative to the fire. So we have an item on the agenda that's not on the agenda that has come up after the agenda was printed, and that item being that we need to ratify my declaration of local emergency. So let's see if did I get everything right? Is that okay? Ms. Counsel, thank you. And so, Ms. Riggs, would you like to?
Supervisor, right.
Okay, we need to add it to agenda, but do it by consensus.
Motion to add it to the
motion.
I move to add this to the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Roder, second by Gray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Sorry, I should ask public comment, shouldn't I? Oh, well. Anybody had any comment? Okay. Now we'll go. You have anything to add?
Good morning, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office, OES Coordinator. And I think that you said it very well, Supervisor Hanvelt. As we were all at the EOC last night, about 10 o'clock, the decision you had made the decision to go ahead and declare a local state of emergency based on the severity of the current, not storm, wildland fire. So we are here today to ask your board to ratify that decision and move forward.
Okay. I'll give them about a minute or so to read this. Any public comment? Questions from the board?
I'll move to ratify the declaration of emergency.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Royce, second by Supervisor Rotifer. Any final comments? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously, again with the absence of Supervisor Brennan. Okay. Now that we got through those important items that need to be done, thank you for your indulgence. We will go back to the regular agenda. And would you read the consent calendar, please? Oh, no, I'm sorry, public comment. I didn't finish public comment. Anybody from the public? Let's see. We have public comment period where all communications, anything not printed on the agenda, and no action will be taken by the board. My apologies. Mr. Phelan.
I guess I'm public. Jim Phelan, a citizen of Tuolumne County. This fire that's burning yesterday, I was hoping to have a little bit more time to study it. It's burning in some areas. I was talking to Mr. Gray. It's burnt at least twice in a pretty near recent history, since '87. Some of it maybe 3 times. A lot of this country down in that Tuolumne River, Clavey River, is brush fields. It's not timber, it's brush. We need to manage it on a more consistent basis. According to my buddy Jim Maddox, historically it burned every 3 to 7 years. We're not doing that. We've got a major problem in Priest Grade right now. If a fire starts there, it's going to explode. We got major problems down around Don Pedro. You can go all the way to the eastern side of the county. Brush fields are meant to burn. They are going to burn. The cattlemen followed the Indians' example. They used to burn the high country when they come down. That got stopped by the Forest Service by denying permits to some of the cattlemen. Then they burned up in the 60s or 70s, I'm not sure which, John. And sometimes that cost them money. I remember Bill Crook had to pay $3,000, one for a couple of boric bombers when one of his control burns got out of control. But the control burns did good. We need to consider something to do in between these major fires. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that comment.
Good Good morning, Chairman Hanfeld and members of the board. I'm Vicki Helmar, Ag Commissioner, and hopefully I'm bringing you just a little bit of good news this morning, despite all the fires that we had. And by the way, my house is like 4 miles south of here, so I'm probably going to be leaving after this board meeting.
I would.
Yeah, you're
Anyway.
excused.
Thank you. I've just given you the 2012 Tuolumne County Crop and Livestock Report, and I am pleased to announce that for a third consecutive year, Tuolumne County's agricultural production has increased. The gross value for all commodities rose $730,000 to an estimated value of $29,968,000. This is 2.5% higher than the 2011 value of $29,238,000. The 2012 crop year saw mixed results for Tuolumne County's agriculture, with half of the categories experiencing increases in value and the other half experiencing decreases. And I'd like to share just a few highlights from this report. First of all, favorable weather conditions during the growing season resulted in the highest production year on record for fruits and vegetables. The category total of $671,000 is a 67.7% jump from the 2011 production values. 2012 was another strong year for livestock and poultry production. Cattle and calves, turkeys, and goats all rose in value due to higher prices or production. However, sheep and lamb values were victims of volatile market conditions, causing a decline in prices. Unfortunately, after rebounding in 2011, timber production slipped in 2012. Although prices improved, the number of board feet harvested dropped almost 20% to 35 million. The drought conditions of early 2012 impacted rangeland forage production, with values dropping more than 15%. And the slow economy continues to have a negative impact on our nursery industry. For the fourth year in a row, the gross value of nursery products declined, resulting in production values of only $225,000, the lowest in 10 years. This was just a quick summary of our 2012 crop and livestock report, and the full report can be found on the Ag Commissioners page of the county website. Thank you.
Do you have any information about how much of the timber harvest is on private land versus public land?
Yes. Excuse me. This past year, approximately 19% was public land, and the rest of it was private land.
Do you have that data historically?
Yes, I do. I can get that for you, Mr.
Would you
Hanfield.
please?
Yes, I can.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Appreciate the report. Anybody got any comments of the report?
Can I ask an unrelated question? Related?
Well, I suppose you can.
How's our air quality doing?
That's not exactly unrelated.
Well, our monitor this morning said that we were in the moderate range, and that's in Columbia. But I can tell you, coming down the mountain today, that the Groveland area is probably experiencing all the way up into the unhealthy range. And also probably the Stent Moccasin area is the same way. We continue monitoring our numbers are change on an hourly basis because we get an hourly update. Todd Stolp and I did put out an alert yesterday, and but I think that we'll be putting out another one because I think it's getting into the unhealthy range, especially in certain parts of the county.
Thank you.
Pete Campa, General Manager, Tuolumne Utilities District. Chairman Hanvelt, members of the board, just two quick updates on two important projects to the community. The first is we are putting the finishing touches on a project that we designed and built at our regional wastewater treatment facility, and that project provides an additional 200 acre-feet of storage, so that'll give us some room for future expansion of that system, the ability to be able to accommodate future growth in the community. And this is a really, really collaborative project with some neighboring ranchers that decided that they could use that water and irrigate pasture land. So 200 acre-feet of additional storage to us is really big. It'll accommodate quite a few units going forward. The second is a project that we're breaking ground on right now with Nearich Construction. We are building an interconnection pipeline between the Columbia Water Treatment Plant, Columbia system, and the newly constructed Big Hill system. So Yankee Hill and Big Hill Road will be affected over the next month or so, probably going into fall and winter, to be able to get that interconnection done. And that will provide significant additional capacity in the Columbia system, redundant works, and the ability to be able to take the Columbia system down and make repairs that we couldn't do before because of the nature of the system. So it's a great project, and appreciate your cooperation from your Public Works folks and everything to get that done. So that's it.
Any questions, Mr. Campo? Thank you. Anybody else have any oral communication? Seeing none, now we'll go to consent calendar. Ms. Jamar, would you read the consent calendar, please?
Minutes of the meeting held July 16, 2013, approving the discharge of accountability for 31 accounts totaling $28,680.21 in the Ambulance Enterprise Fund in accordance with Government Code Section 25259, declaring various equipment as not required for public use and surplus, authorizing the deputy purchasing agent to dispose of the property through one-day sales to be held on August 24, 2013 at 10195 North Airport Road, Columbia, California, and on September 7, 2013 at 101 Hospital Road at 8 a.m. and 229 West Jackson Street at 10:30 a.m. Consideration of approving an exemption for the payment of the $4 gate fee at the Cal Sierra transfer station for customers disposing of latex paint only and no other waste. Approving a contract between the Tuolumne County Behavioral Health Department and the Infant Child Enrichment Services for Early Childhood Education and Nurturing Parent Project. Approving an agreement between the Tuolumne County Behavioral Health Department and St. Helena Hospital for inpatient psychiatric services. Resolution endorsing the appointment of James O'Neill to a position on the California State Park and Recreation Commission. Accepting the resignation of Elise Northcutt from the Tuolumne County Youth Commission and Linda Dick Bissonette from the Historic Preservation Review Commission, and then directing the clerk to send letters of appreciation and post a notice of vacancy.
Okay. Anybody have any items they want to pull from the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull number 7.
Number 7. Anybody got anything else? Okay. Any comment from the public on the consent calendar? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion on the consent calendar, the exception of item 7.
I'll move on that.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Royce, second by Supervisor Rutherford to accept the consent calendar with the exception of item 7. Any public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Would you read item 7, please?
Consideration of approving a resolution endorsing the appointment of James O'Neill to a position on the California State Parks and Recreation Commission.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, the only reason I really pulled this is I want to add a couple of exclamation points to the importance of this. This is an opportunity for us to get a foothill representative on a very important commission to our tourism industry. We've got 2 state parks. Jim O'Neill has been on the Friends of both of those parks. I think he's a very well-qualified candidate, and I would like to see that we work with our congressional staffs as well to make sure that we give every leverage that we can to getting him appointed to that commission. And I'll be prepared to make a motion to approve the recommendation or the resolution when it's time.
Any other comment from the board? I would ditto everything you said. I think it would be a real benefit to us, and I appreciate Mr. O'Neill going after this appointment. I think it's a good thing for the county. Any public comment? And I'll entertain the motion.
I move that the board approve the resolution supporting the appointment of Mr. O'Neill to a position with the California State Parks and Recreation Commission.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Rutherford, second by Supervisor Royce. to appoint Jim O'Neill to the position of California State Parks and Recreation Commission. Any public comment? Final comments from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Would you read item 10, please?
Consideration of approving an appointment to the planning, of a planning commission member to the Ag Advisory Committee.
Good morning again, Chairman Hanfeld and members of the board. I'm Vicki Helmar, Agricultural Commissioner. Earlier this year, your board adopted an ordinance to disband the area planning commissions. You further directed that all 7 positions of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission be considered for appointments or reappointments in order to provide an opportunity for the area planning commissioners and others to apply to serve on the planning commission. On July 2nd, your board appointed the 7-member commission, and at the July 3rd Planning Commission meeting, the newly appointed commissioners were informed that 1 member was needed to represent the commission on the Agriculture Advisory Committee. The clerk of the board has received applications from 2 planning commission members for this position, Robert Steele and Ron Ringen. The candidates' applications are included in your packets. Resolution 10604 specifies that the planning commission member will serve a 1-year term. Since the expiration dates for terms of office of all TCPC members is February 15th, the expiration date of the Agriculture Advisory Committee position should coincide with the Planning Commission expiration date. For this first appointment, it is recommended that the term extend beyond 1 year and expire on February 15, 2015. I am requesting that your board appoint 1 of the 2 candidates as the Planning Commission member to the Agricultural Advisory Committee for a term to expire February 15, 2015.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Elmore? You're still here. I thought you'd be out of here.
No,
I know.
go in a minute.
Okay, Mr. Rodefer.
I would like to indicate my support for Mr. Robert Steele for the position. He has personal ag business, and I think would do a very fine job on the committee. And at the appropriate time, I'll make such a motion.
I would second that.
Okay, that was a motion?
I move that we appoint Robert Steele to the
Second.
Yes. Okay, motion by Supervisor Rodefer, second by Supervisor Gray. Any public comment? Anything else from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I clarify one point? Embedded in my motion was to approve the recommendation for the term to be more than 1 year.
2015.
Yes.
You understood that, didn't you?
Yes, I understood that.
Okay. You understood that, too? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to clarify, the term is what date then?
It goes to February 2015. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah, that's included in
Yeah,
it.
February 15, 2015.
And that's what the item said anyway. Okay. Would you read 11, please?
Consideration of providing direction on comments the Board of Supervisors may wish to make to the Tuolumne-Stanislaus Integrated Regional Water Management Planning Grant Committee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I know that most of you are well aware of this, but there are some state funds that are available through Propositions 84 and 1E that can help with infrastructure related to a variety of water-related needs. And your board has, very much frequently been on record in your support for those kinds of improvements within our community, and wish to, support all efforts in that direction. Back in 2008, your board entered into an MOU with a regional group to help create plans that would facilitate local agencies to apply for those grant funds. And you've appointed a representative from this board to be on that group. Your primary appointee is Supervisor Royce. Supervisor Rodefer serves as an alternate, and as a backup to your first alternate, you also have Daniel Richardson from my office as an alternate to provide input into that process. We're getting to an important point in the process where a plan is coming to fruition. Draft plan is being finalized for consideration by those who wish to participate in the process. In looking at the draft plan that came out, talking with the board's representatives, there are just things that I felt is important as just one voice into this process, and we're just one voice. We do not drive it. We're a member of it, as are several other entities. I thought it was important before the next step was taken to make sure that the full board was aware of what was happening, share some concerns with you, and see if you would like to share some comments, suggestions with the group before they finalize this draft interregional water management plan. And perhaps a joint powers authority agreement that's also being crafted in association with it. So that's really the thrust of this item. And the next meeting of that group is actually tomorrow. So there's some urgency to, if we're going to speak into it, this would be a good time to do it. So starting on page 2 of your memo, it talks about, and let me back up too and say that nothing I have to say here has anything to do with the questioning the projects that are in the draft plan. It's really just kind of focused on some of the governance issues. I don't think I've not heard any concerns about the projects themselves. But in the governance section, it talks about creating a joint powers authority to oversee the next phase of implementation of this process as it affects our region, which are portions of Calaveras and all of Tuolumne County. And that would be that'd be using a governing board made up of members who join this joint powers authority. There's in the plan it talks about using an MOU to establish a watershed advisory committee, which is made up of a broad group of stakeholders, not just the governmental entities, but that could also be just any number of interested stakeholders in this process, so non-governmental organizations. And that advisory group would do just that, provide advice to items that would come to the governing board. I'll come back to that in a moment. And then using an administrative support team to actually just do the day-to-day administrative functions that would be attendant to this entire effort. And on that latter point of an administrative support team, at least the discussions of the planning grant committee is to use our resource conservation district, as the administrative arm of this new entity, however it is formed. That's not been finalized, but that's the direction that it was heading to, at least in the discussions of the group. My observations on this, as far as the base governance structure, you can use any number of structures. I cite the state's guidelines, on the matter. It can be a JPA, it can be an MOU, or it can be any other written agreement as appropriate to accomplish this, this purpose that the parties can agree to. I just mentioned I looked at a number of entities. I didn't do an exhaustive search. I did very sophisticated, just put California IRWIMs on Google, and the first ones that came up, I had 8 that used an MOU, and then there was one that showed the use of a JPA. I don't want that to sound like, well, everyone's doing an MOU and very few are doing a JPA. I don't know statewide, but certainly it shows it's being done either way. I know that the group, just looking at their minutes, they're looking for a stable and sustainable organization. They're looking to secure funding to cover the administrative functions that are necessary for this. The likely administrative arm of the group, the RCD, would prefer one structure over another, mainly out of concerns for consistent funding. And there was a comment made through one of our local tribes that they would prefer one structure over the other, and that is the structure that is in the plan right now, which is a joint powers authority, as opposed to the MOU. As I state in here, it could be whatever you want to use for the structure. Staff acknowledges with the discussions that's occurred, there's buy-in right now on using a joint powers authority. I think if that's where this goes, and if indeed the Board of Supervisors wants to participate, or the water agency, you'd want to be very specific in the crafting of this, exactly what authorities you might want to extend to the group, and that's one of the fundamental differences with an MOU. One thing I do point out in here, one of the parties that has been involved from the beginning, and that's the Stanislaus National Forest. They're part of the IRWIN process right now. They want to continue, but based on the best information available to the forest supervisor, right now, to the best of her knowledge, they could not participate in a JPA. And that rings true to me because that's something we discussed when we were looking at possible ways to do the Kennedy Meadows project, where we took on ownership of the property. We investigated that potential, and that was the decision that was given back to them by council at that time. So that's not necessarily our problem, but that's information so you know they're obviously a large player, because that's where most of the water originates. And we've certainly talked about the importance of healthy forest practices to generate quantity and good quality of water. So just to point that out. As far as the Water Advisory Committee, definitely want to acknowledge there has to be meaningful avenues for participation of interested stakeholders. That's an essential part of this whole IRWIN process. There's no sidestepping that, not to suggest that we should. So we definitely need to have a process to do that. The process that's proposed is using this Watershed Advisory Committee to do it. However, looking at the plan and looking at the minutes of those meetings, there's just a number of issues that were unclear at best to me. For example, the mechanism of establishing the WAC was an MOU, which would be apart from the JPA. That would be a very unconventional way of doing that. I'll just leave it there. The authority of the WAC relative to the governing board, again, if you compare the words of the plan and the minutes of the meetings, it just left it unclear to me. And that's very important. That's the primary advisory committee of this new governing board. So what exactly are their roles? What exactly are their authorities in relation to the governing board? And then also, it just seemed unclear, this would be a lesser point, but unclear as to the role and authorities of the WAC relative to the administrative support team, who actually brings these things forward to the governing board, and so forth. So just a lot of questions, because this thing is moving fast. And again, if your board wished to participate, normally, these things would be very clear in documents that came to this board. And in my opinion, these are not as they were written at the time this memo was written. On the administrative support team, again, just want to restate that no one has issue with the RCD should they be chosen as the administrative arm of this organization. But one thing I also had concerns about, and I noticed that other members of the planning group had concerns, was the potential cost to administer this function. Again, it really is certainly there's an important planning component, but this also serves very much as a conduit for funding. So how much should that really cost? Numbers that had been provided at one meeting put that cost potentially as high as $150,000 a year, where current members of the IRWIN are contributing just under $60,000 a year. Anytime we've ever come to your board about establishing a JPA, regional group like this, the last being the Economic Development Authority, this board had cost estimates both for initial implementation, but also moving into the future, along with how that would be funded. And I would think anyone interested in participating in this group, not just the county, would also be interested in knowing not just the initial startup costs, but what the potential ongoing costs might be. Again, the importance is we have this coming to that planning group, planning committee tomorrow. So this would be timely to provide input into that process as far as the county is concerned. I know I've spoken at length with Mr. Campa about these concerns, as well as both Supervisors Royce and Rotifer. And I think Pete has I know he has some updates which are very positive on this matter. If I can lean on you, Pete, to share those. But beyond those updates on the plan and the JPA discussions, Something that the board will need to decide down the road. Key questions would be, do you want to participate as a member of the JPA? And then interestingly, given the board's recent action with regard to the water agency, if you do want to participate, which hat do you want to wear? Do you want to be the county of Tuolumne, or do you want to be the county water agency? Or intriguing question is both, if you could do that. And the other is whether you participate in the planning on the JPA governing board or not, would the board at least want to participate, or the county want to participate on the Watershed Advisory Committee? Different questions. Those are questions you do not have to answer today, but if you want to participate on the governing board and say we're going to use the JPA to create this new structure, your board will need to approve the plan that's moving forward and adopt it, and you will then also have to enter into any associated joint powers agreement. So if I could, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to hear from Mr. Campa now.
I do.
Once again, Pete Campa, General Manager, Tuolumne Utilities District. And I think we can certainly provide some clarity as last night some of the wording was clarified based on our understanding of the minutes and the actions taken by the group over the last 5 years, as well as just straight clarification based on Mr. Pedro's concerns and bringing to light some of the things that when you sit around a table for 5 years, you all know where you're going, and when it goes into print, you think along those lines, and you think very clearly to that end that you all had agreed to over time. So I can certainly understand the concerns as you brought them forward. One of the first things that was discussed was the creation of the Watershed Advisory Committee, or the WAC, and that will be done through the JPA. That is, in other words, the JPA, Joint Powers Agreement, would state what the WAC's role is and how it was created, and if it were to be created, and that's the intent, because that's the stakeholder component that's required by the Department of Water Resources to keep this plan alive and keep it moving forward. So it will be the JPA that establishes the structure and process for the Watershed Advisory Committee. And the understanding going forward, though, is that Watershed Advisory Committee would operate under a very similar structure to what the current Planning Grant Committee operates under. In other words, it's consensus-based, but there's also a voting structure in the event that they get hung up. So the Watershed Advisory Committee is the one that does the on-the-ground technical stuff, and then the Joint Powers Authority is the one with all of the decision-making authority. They will be considering the recommendations of the Watershed Advisory Committee, as well as considering items on their own of varying interests. So ultimately, the JPA is the one that makes all of the decisions.
Contrary to what you're talking JPA, is that what you think the preferred mode is as opposed to MOU?
Well, it is, because that has been the momentum of the group for the past 6 to 8 months. We spent 3 full meetings on just moving forward on where we were going, and the JPA was the consensus of the group. Didn't have to go to vote. It was consensus to go forward with that. So to back up now, we could make that statement, or the county can make any statement they wish in this, but when you look at the JPA versus an MOU type of arrangement, really the difference in the cost is just up front. It's the creation of the JPA, and it might be the audit requirements and the Brown Act requirements, but everything else is the same. As far as the activities and the tasks of, be it under an MOA or an MOU or a JPA, they still have to meet the minimum DWR requirements of how they keep the plan active and alive and review it, and the administration, the reporting and compiling information. So really the difference is not going to be that substantial on a funding basis, but that was pretty well decided. So to go back now, TUD's position was to proceed with the JPA through board action.
Okay. couple of quick questions, and maybe you can't answer them. Mr. Pedro said that the Forest Service would not join a JPA. Is that a problem?
Well, actually, it was assumed that everyone at the table had the authority to speak on behalf of their entity, and it always has been the assumption based on the input that we were receiving at the table that they were going that way. However, right now they are party to the Memorandum of Understanding, and we estimate or expect that the WAC would also operate under that type of agreement going forward as formed by the JPA. And the Forest Service could participate as part of that, which is the same level that they're participating now, except they wouldn't be sitting at the JPA making a decision if they can't participate. They would be basically reviewing the plan, updating the plan. They could put projects in the plan and get those projects funded and administer their own projects. The difference is they just wouldn't have a seat on the JPA if they can't.
And the next question is, assuming we have a JPA, who would you contemplate would be members of that JPA? And is there anybody that would be eliminated from participation that we think would be essential to this idea?
The JPA does offer the ability for participation of the tribe, and they've expressed interest at the table to participate. It does all of the NGOs and the other non-government entities that have participated in the process would all be eligible to continue to participate on the WAC, on the Watershed Advisory Committee, and that's the way that was organized. But they do the majority of the work similar to what's going on now with the Planning Grant Committee. So it would be similar to your staff activities, preparing documentation information for your board's decision. So I don't see anybody being left out, either to get a project funded or to affect the process in some way.
Okay, Supervisor Murphy, you had a question?
Well, I just want to clarify a couple of things. Pete kind of alluded to it a little bit. This process has been ongoing for about 6 months at least to try and determine which way to go. The JPA was the selected avenue, I guess. The other thing that we need to understand is that the current MOU expires with the approval of our submission of our plan, and that is anticipated to occur in September. We need some method of administering that plan that goes forward. The other thing that I think that's important to understand is that the two funding vehicles for this that are in place right now are likely not to be the only funding vehicles that are going to be accessible solely through an earwimp process. So we need the earwimp process going forward to be eligible for future grants that come through the Water Board. So the need for some kind of a management structure, I think, is clear. The decision, certainly we can go back in and ask that they revisit the JPA versus the MOU, but I think the staffing process or the decision process is pretty well down the road. If we're going to do that, we need to do it immediately, in fairness to the rest of the potential partners in the JPA. One of the problems that we had with the MOU structure in the past was that we couldn't keep some governmental agencies that I think we feel are key to the process, at least I do, and I think that TED probably does as well, because of the fractured nature of the decision-making process. That's not to say you couldn't do an MOU that would change that process, but that wasn't the path that was selected. So anyway, that's just my perspectives. I think the key thing for us, whether we act as a water agency or a board or both, we need clear definition of the relationship between the JPA decision-making body and the WAC, what those roles and relationships are. There certainly needs to be mechanisms in place by which the JPA decision-making authority cannot necessarily be constrained by the WAC. While it's an advisory body, it needs to be an advisory body and not a decision-making body at a different level. So those are the things that we need to work through, and those are the things that I would recommend that we emphasize.
Supervisor Gray?
Yes, I would agree on the assessment of the WAC. In reviewing a number of those meeting minutes, it seems like the group wanted to be on equal authority in the decision-making process, and that certainly wouldn't work in my mind. The other thing I just want to remind my fellow board members that a number of years ago, the people of Tuolumne County voted Tuolumne County out of the water and sewer business, and now we seem to be jumping back into that. So just something to remember. The other biggest concern is that there's no way that I can, in reading any of this, that I can define how much it's going to cost Tuolumne County to be a part of this, and then when we are a part of it, you know, our role is picking projects. And I'm not too sure if that's a good role for us. It seemed like the projects that should be picked should be established by the water agencies, the Groveland Community Service District, TUD, and Jamestown. Those are the ones that monitor it and run it. So I'm sure we can throw our 2 cents in, but I don't think I know your business as well as you do.
Okay.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say that I do support what the IRWIN is trying to do, essentially. But there are other aspects of it, and one of the things that really, well, let me just kind of back up for a second. For anybody that doesn't know what an RWIMP is, I mean, we start talking all these things, it's kind of a confusing thing. It's a collaborative group that deals with regional water planning, and they have a plan that's been put together by this group who has representatives from all these different government organizations that, like was mentioned, whether it's TUD or Calaveras or Groveland Community Services District or whatever, Tuolumne County, but there's also what are called NGOs, non-government organizations. So anybody that wanted to be a part of this collaborative process could pay a small fee of like $125 to have a vote. So you have environmental interests, you have things like that. And there's good parts to that and there's bad parts. The good part is it's a public process. The bad part is it takes forever. You have people that don't agree being forced to try to consolidate their differences, and it's very difficult. It's a good thing, but it's difficult. And the biggest thing I think that we need to consider here, from me personally as a representative on this, is the fact that in order to participate, you have to adopt the plan. You have to adopt the plan that was drafted by an outside group that was comprised of special interests. And in the future, that plan can be changed. And by adopting that, there are implications to our future land use, decision-making, and so forth. And it's very serious, I think, for us to consider that. And then secondarily is funding and what's the financial obligation to participate. Personally, I think, and my position has always been to be supportive of this. We want to be supportive of our water partners in the county, and we want to see them succeed, but I don't want to take on a role and a responsibility where, one, there's soft legislation that's through a back door changing county policies, especially when it's comprised of NGOs, which don't necessarily represent the public like we do, and we're accountable. They're not. That's a concern. And so in the future, I'm not sure exactly what I would recommend specifically, but I do think we want to participate as an advisory partner type role, but not a member. So I don't know if that would be a WAC member or whatever it would be. And then I think my first inclination is to have the Tuolumne County Water Agency be a partner on that, and kind of keep the representative. I think Carl would be a good representative to serve on that, and kind of keep it consistent, especially when we're looking at things like water rights and stuff that kind of ties in. But I would like to see more of a legal and kind of a administrative kind of pros and cons comparison to what would be the best. But that's basically my position.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that really, I think there's several levels of activity or input, decision-making, whatever, that we need to be considering. On one level, it's really, what do we support, since we are part of the IRWIM, the current MOU, is what kind of a governance model do we want to support? And I think that it's important for us to support that governance model that we are convinced best allows the people that are going to be competing for these grant monies and executing the programs that they fund to be able to govern the process adequately. And so for that reason, I have supported the pursuit, personally, supported the pursuit of the JPA, because I think it accomplishes those things. And it most easily accomplishes those things. The second thing is Evan brings up Supervisor Royce brings up some exceptionally good points, and that is, to what level do we want to participate in that, or what level is it appropriate that we participate in? And going back to some of Supervisor Gray's points as well, we're certainly not in the water providing business, nor do we anticipate that we would be in the water providing business. So I think most of our even as a water agency, the projects that we would be trying to support competition for funding for, and that we would like to see managed well, are those projects that would be pursued by and managed by our constituent water providers, whether that's GCSD, Twain Harte, TUD, and that. So we would, I think our proper role, or I would offer that our proper role most likely is that we, in a support role, from a policy standpoint, for those water providing entities in our county. And so the decision that we would make, and again, I'm not ready to make that decision today, but the decision we would make on how and where, at what level to participate, I think would be flavored, if you will, by those kinds of considerations. But I think there's two separate issues here. Is between now and September, we need to help this process form the follow-on governance body to the current MOU process, because that MOU is going to go away, and if we don't have a governance body in place, then we don't have the ability to manage the grant money that may or may not come our way, depending on how our proposal is viewed by the Water Board. But we still need to have that governance model in place, and we need to support the development of that. And then secondarily to that, we would need to decide where and how we want to participate in that. Thank you.
Mr. Royce, do you have more you want to say?
Kind of. I don't know if it's really going to add value completely to the thought process we need to be on, but just give us a little more insight maybe. There's different perspectives that are represented on IRWIM right now, and the perspective that we represent to some degree when it comes to water is we deal with land use decisions, permitting, and entitlements, and we deal with people that are on septics and wells. water districts deal with people that are on public sewer, public water, and the environmental interests don't like septics, they don't like wells. And when you're drafting a plan, you have a lot of information in there that could apply, and not just those things, but also we deal with roads and sediment and erosion control and things like that. The nature to control those types of problems from the state level on down is a regulatory approach, which is okay to some degree because that's the only way you can really deal with it in some ways. But when you have a group that's comprised of those interests drafting a plan with certain things that are related to that, and with potential, especially in the future, there's serious implications to us adopting a plan. That's my main concern, and I just want to point that out. The major benefit, I think this is really a critical thing to have happen, even though I don't want to participate in that degree, because in the future, water funding will probably be funneled through this type of agency. And look at the future, I don't know if it's going to happen soon, but a water bond and things like that could, when they start drafting laws, I'm sure they'll use IRWMPs to participate through that somehow. So that's important, but that's kind of the underlying thoughts that I have. So.
Okay, I'll make a couple of comments in response to some of the things that have been said. First of all, I did not like the makeup of the existing IRWMP organization from the beginning. I got talked out of complaining about it. It's simply because I didn't think that the membership should be open to virtually anybody, and particularly NGOs. NGOs are, in my view, an important part of our community because they tend to represent people. However, they are members of the public, in effect, and should be treated as members of the public. They also sometimes get paid to do what they do by outside interests outside our community that do not always have the best interests of our community at heart. So I am generally opposed to including NGOs in any organization where they have a vote or any more significant influence than the common public time. I just think that puts undue importance to single-issue entities often that are not always in the best interest of the people of our county. And I take Supervisor Gray's comments important. We got out of the water supply business and the sewer business a long time ago. That being said, I don't have any intention of getting back into that either. However, our constituents in this county are not all represented by TUD or Twain Harte Community Services District or Groveland Community Services District or any of the other services districts. Some of them are much smaller entities, and I think they deserve to be represented, and I think that's our job to do that. So I think my own opinion is I don't think we have a choice but to participate, and I think we need to exercise the influence that we have on the behalf of the constituents. I also think that both the Water Agency and the Board of Supervisors bring different kinds of influence to the table, and in terms of influencing decisions made outside our county that affect our county, we need to utilize those agencies, the Board of Supervisors, the Water Agency, whichever, and the IRWMP to the best interests of the water business for our constituents. So I think doing nothing is not an option. I mean, first of all, that's not an option. I think we must participate. And the question really comes, is it a JPA or is it a memo of understanding? I would like to ask County Council, in your mind, which form exercises, first of all, exercises the most authority or is most binding in terms of participants in what they do.
Really, in terms of binding, the MOU is a contract, so that's binding. JPA is also binding. I don't think that there's really a preference in terms of legal issues. But what I will say about the JPA is that only public agencies can participate in a JPA, and that they exercise common powers. So when your board is considering whether or not you're going to be a member of the JPA, and if so, you're going to be the water agency or you're going to be the county of Tuolumne, what you want to consider is what kind of powers you want this JPA to have, because the more broad power entity that's on the JPA, then that JPA can exercise that power. The more limited the power, then the JPA will be limited.
But don't give them our powers without permission.
You don't give them the powers, but you give them a common power that you can all exercise. The county has more broad power than the water agency.
Do they automatically get the broad powers of the county if we join as a county?
You don't get all of the powers of the county, and it really is going to depend on what project you're going to do. But I just want to say that the water agency is very limited in its power. So again, I think when you're looking at what types of projects you're going to do, what kinds of things this JPA would do, that's when you need to consider the pros and cons of the county versus the water agency.
For clarification, a JPA has the powers that are common to all its members.
Exactly.
Not the totality
That's
of all the
Correct.
members. It's just the common powers.
Yes.
Okay, any more comments from the board? Sure.
I think this is something that might have to be looked into, but if we were to participate as a water agency, the water agency does not have land use decision-making or policy-making powers. So that may be, that's why I think that's the vehicle we want to pursue. But I also want to be clear and make sure that we're not adopting a plan that's later used throughout the CEQA checklist, that we're mitigating any kind of impact, and that we're completely consistent with all of the policies within that plan, which, like I said, are not necessarily consistent with things that we're dealing with, especially when you're dealing with the future of groundwater monitoring and septic regulations. So is there, I don't know how much more comments there are, but I think...
Always get some public comment before we...
Sure. But I think that might be some kind of direction that we might want to look at, kind of tightening up, but look at how we could participate through the water agency.
Okay. Any further questions?
There were a number of comments that were made that I really would like the opportunity to address. I know this is extending out, but this is the first time I've heard some of these concerns and issues.
You have,
and I can tell you, we don't on any of the points. There's no disagreement across the board on any of it. We all have the same concerns and issues. There's a core misunderstanding of what the intent of this IRWIMP is. It is not simply just a conduit for TUD or Groveland or Twainhart to get grants. It's bigger than that. And it's also much different. Supervisor Royce, when you talk about it limits your ability to do things or it can be used against you, that's exactly why you're an active participant. You want it to complement what you do and supplement what you do and respect your policies, okay? Because that's, at the core of it, that's what it's supposed to do, is take your policies and implement those and move them forward and respect those and include those in the planning of others, similar to what you, I mean, that's really what it's intended to do. And with the projects that are in the plan, you decide whether those are in or not. And you, as a county, have the ability to access a huge pot of money. Counties are getting more money than districts are through Prop 1E, through Prop 84, for anything related to, you talked about wells, you talked about septics, you talked about, stormwater and runoff and erosion and all those things. Those are the big projects that counties are getting money for, and you don't have access to that money unless you are in the plan and have adopted the plan for those projects. Those are the things that need to, be understood. There's definitely an interest on the part of the county to be part of this, because it is going to move forward in some format, and I don't see anything in review of that plan that steps on your policies in any way. It's all contained in it. So, and then there's, I don't know, let me just kind of finish, and then you guys can finish it off, because I've got So the county does have direct access. There are, tens of millions of dollars going to other counties for just the stuff that you talked about. The county can, if it's a financial issue or you don't want to participate in the JPA, you don't have to. You can still participate in the WAC, bring your projects forward, and have influence on the final decision. The issue of the agencies having control of their own destiny and their own projects and the county getting involved in somebody else's projects, that's not the way it works. TUD proposes a project, we put it out there, we run it through a filter to see if there's any other component that can be added or a way to configure that project to address multiple issues. If not, it stands on its own and it's prioritized on its own. And then when the grant funding is awarded, TUD administers that project. There might be a third-party grant administrator that holds that money and pays the bills, but it's still a TUD project. We do CEQA, we do the design, we manage the contract, all of that. So the county would do its own projects, we do our own projects. The only thing is we might do a Phoenix Lake project that has a component of an outdoor classroom or something. It might have a wildlife enhancement or fish enhancement project, something that our drinking water customers really don't participate in that much. So that's how they become integrated. And we will have a lot of projects that are going to be affected and result in projects that you might be involved in on your road side. There may be an issue that we identify that's an over water quality issue that can be fixed by addressing some infrastructure issue that we would then take grants for and integrate your project in with ours to fully address a water quality issue. So, I mean, it really is not a mandatory document. It is a way to resolve conflicts for water supply, and it does show support if you do adopt it. If you don't adopt it, it doesn't mean that it's dead. It just means you can't get any grants. Okay, but it does show support too. If you adopt it, it shows support for the agencies, and the county's word, the county's adoption is really powerful. And so. In my review of the plan and in the preparation of the plan, I mean, I know it intimately, and I certainly wouldn't propose adoption by my board of any plan that we felt limited your policy powers or your land use powers. So if there is something, we certainly want to know about it.
Okay. Everything you said sounds great, and I appreciate it, but what I want to make clear is the Board of Supervisors serves as a judicial body when we make land use decisions, and those have to do with entitlements and land use applications and things like that. When a CEQA document is prepared, there's a checklist, and one of the items, one of the boxes that you have to check says, is this project consistent with all local plans, policies, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole list of things. So if we adopt this as a plan, when you check that box, you have to make sure the project is consistent with everything within that plan. Everything within a plan that in the future can be modified as proposed by a WAC committee comprised of representatives who are not elected or accountable, that pay a minimal fee to have a voting power. And I have serious problems with that, especially when I said there's future for things like groundwater monitoring and so forth. And it's powerful to use grants as an incentive to create a desire to want to participate, but it really does limit our powers, and it changes how we have to make those decisions of approving projects when we make a finding that it's consistent within that plan. So that's critical. That's why I'm open to the idea of participating and adopting as the water agency, but not as the county.
And the WAC does not vote.
The WAC has the ability, you said, to change and update and modify the plan.
But it has to be, it's not their decision. They just recommend an advisory capacity. It's very clear in the revisions to the implementation section.
It's not just that, Pete, but you also have water districts and you have other agencies whose motivations could be different than the counties. Like I said, we represent people who are on wells and septics, and water agencies and districts represent people that are on public sewer, public water. You would have an incentive to put everybody on public sewer and public water. We don't have that incentive. We represent those people. So there's different motivating factors, and that's why sharing those powers when it comes to land use decision-making and policy, and really there's the same kind of structures put together for it's a movement towards regionalization for transportation issues and tying those to land use decision-making. And that's what the state legislature, these kind of funding mechanisms are put together. They're soft legislation. That's how they do it. That's what their motivation is. They want buy-in. And I'm okay with some of that, but we have specific powers and authorities and responsibilities, and like I said, we're accountable. If we screw up, somebody can vote me out. The WAC board and the JPA, that's different. And I don't think that an unaccountable body with roles outside of what their accountable responsibilities are is the right thing.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, again, the only way that the JPA could exercise land use authority would be if every member of the JPA had land use authority.
That's not what I'm saying.
Then I'm missing what you're saying.
If we adopt the plan, and I talked to Bev yesterday that she was talking about the potential for, we're going to go and do a planning session here in a little while to talk about our general plan, and there's mandatory elements and there are voluntary elements, and we talked about the potential for a water element, and we have, a good reason to want to do that when we talk about pursuing water rights and more storage and things like that. It does affect our whole county. But if we refer to the IRWIMP in the general plan and we talk about we're adopting this, when you go through that CEQA checklist, just like we talked about with the Berg, and with the wildlife handbook versus the birch, any project that is going to be commented on by agencies like Fish and Wildlife, they're going to say, is it consistent with local policies and plans? And they'll go through and they'll be familiar with those plans and say, no, you're not doing mitigation for potential impacts to groundwater monitoring, or so and right now it may not be that serious of a threat, but that's the framework for these things in the future, and I'm concerned about that. That's why I don't like the county doing it, because we're subject to that with those powers that we have. With the water agency, we're not.
We don't have to give up any of our powers.
Not giving up our powers.
We don't have to share them either.
We're creating an obligation to be consistent with those plans when we make findings to approve land use decisions by adopting a plan. That's different.
I would probably agree with Mr. Royce on this one. I don't know why, but I do. Only because I do recall a checklist and the number of items that you have to go through when you look at CEQA. That the thing that we're looking at here, and I'm just trying to wind back to
the agenda.
Where we were here, because we could probably talk all day on this, is that we need to provide some input and clarity to staff on what to do. I think I still have, I don't know if it's confusion, but it has to do with the WAC. Pete, you say that it's just advisor and everything. I think we need something really clear and written that's the definition of it. Secondly, is that I'm not sure who the players in the JPA are going to be. Are they, there's going to be some members that are out there right now, and I think Supervisor Hanvelt mentioned that some of those people he doesn't like. I like them all, because I think we represent some of those too.
No, I just don't think that they should be elevated to the level of governmental agencies.
And I would agree with that, but I think we do need to hear from them. They do need to be
I agree.
A part of the discussion. And the other thing is the last is who are the players and who are the payers? And somebody's got to pay to play here. And I'm looking at how we have to monitor this, and it looks like to me you're going to have to hire a director to run the JPA. I can't see how you can do all of this stuff without some sort of staff. And I know, my experience on the Economic Development Authority, we just have 2 people there, and we're spending $300,000 a year roughly. So I can see this cost escalating. So we need to know. We have to have, I think, before we move too far forward, we have to have answers to those questions.
Mr. Chairman? So on the issue, I don't want to diminish what's been said on the participation of the county in the future, but that would be an item next month, and all those issues that came up could be discussed at that point. How do we participate, what structure, address some of those concerns, cost. But for the immediate thing is what changes in the plan might the board want to get in, and as this draft JPA is being formed, what kinds of things would you like in there? And actually what I'm hearing is a lot of consensus on that. Actually, is the JPA is okay, but when it comes to the establishment of the WAC, that's done through the JPA, not through an MOU, and that it's very clear, in the documents that the plan and this JPA, that the governing board, however it's constructed, is the one who ultimately has authority of all decision-making of that body. I think that kind of capsulizes it. There's a lot of details that need to be put in there, but if we can just have the plan and the JPA say basically what we're saying here, I think that's what is needed. But just to point out, this isn't trivial, because what's being stated, which I believe is the intent, is not the kinds of stuff that's in the documents right now. For example, and I'll get off it here, but in the plan it says the WAC will include signatories to an MOU with governance principles similar to the current MOUs used to constitute the existing planning grant committee. It's anticipated that the JPA and revised MOU will be executed around the same time as the IRWIN plan. That's not consistent with what's being said here, and that's what just needs to be said, is make the words match what we're describing here. And then I think as far as the plan and the draft, it's going to be a skeleton of the JPA, would be much more consistent with what I've heard, from the board.
I want to take some public comment. Before I do, I want to clarify, I didn't say I don't like NGOs. I just don't think they ought to have a direct vote, because they're nothing more than public.
You have to have thicker skin. You have to be. You have to not let this.
I just don't want you to misunderstand.
Can I answer one of John's questions a little bit?
Okay, then I'm going to the public.
Okay. The potential membership, as I understand it, and Pete, help me out here, both tribes have expressed possible interest in participating. Utica Power, CCWD, TUD, GCSD. I'm not sure, is Twain Harte?
Yeah.
Twain Harte's in there. Possibly the city of Sonora, possibly the county, possibly the water agency. Right now, nobody that I know of has actually stepped up and said, yes, we will be a member of this. But those are the governmental or the public agencies that have been in this process. Are there any other ones, Pete?
The tribes.
I mentioned those.
City of Angels.
Oh, that's right.
Was Calaveras County. They withdrew.
But they may come back in.
They may come back. A couple of utility districts on the other side of the river, on the Stanislaus side.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Please.
Good morning. Stephanie Seuss. In the last 2 years, in my role as the Environmental Programs Manager for the Tuolumne-Band and Miwok, we have participated in these IRWIN discussions. 4 years ago, the tribe declined membership of this under the MOU because they felt it was a waiver of their sovereign immunity. There are 108 federally recognized tribes in the state of California. There are 55 non-federally recognized tribes in the state of California. That means there are 108 individual ways of expressing sovereign governance. Tribes have states' rights. They can do everything under federal statutes except mint money and declare war. So when you look at IRWIN structures, I saw that. when you look under IRWIMP structures, what works for one tribe may not be comfortable to another tribe. Our advocacy has been looking at how the IRWIMP's PSP, the actual documents under the grant application is written. And it was set up, and when it says applicant, it says the entity that is formally submitting a grant application. The grant applicant must be a local agency or a nonprofit organization. Under the state of California, a local agency is defined. Tribes, federally recognized tribes, are given statute under federal authority. So a federally recognized tribe cannot be an applicant in this process. So our advocacy has been through a joint powers authority, because in 2009, under Government Code Section 6500, it was revised to allow federal departments, agencies, and tribes to be participants fully as joint powers of authority, which, again, in an IRWIMP, is allowed through a JPA. This, there are 48 IRWIMP regions in the state of California. This region, the Tuolumne-Stanislaus, is one of the last to come on board, and it is perhaps one of the first to form a JPA that could possibly have a tribe at the table. This is groundbreaking. I sit on the Tribal Advisory Committee to the Department of Water Resources. I also, as a member of that, have been asked to be a part of the focus group strategic for the future of strategic planning for the state of California. They're writing a strategic plan after these years for IRWIMP. And this is huge for them to even hear that the Tuolumne-Stanislaus IRWIMP is considering forming a JPA to even open that door for a tribe or two tribes to come equal as federal governments to sit at the table. Can I stand here today and answer your question, is either the Chicken Ranch Band of Miwok or the Tuolumne Band of Miwok going to sit at this table? No. When they started talking about this governance, Chairman Day and Chairman Matheson authorized us to speak on their behalf, to advocate for this position. It is not up to me. It is up to the Tribal Council. That is their form of government. They will make that decision. But I have to say, this is huge. The other thing about collaboration, whether or not you like NGOs, this is what the state is asking in the future. They're asking communities, regions to get together and work together and get out of those silos of just agency and agency and county. They want us to reach across the table to the NGOs and look at the watershed region and what is impacting you. The fire that's raging today is kind of that big deal about how can we work together to manage it better. What's going to happen over there when that fire is gone is the impact that leaves is going to hit the water system. It's going to have an impact on Hetch Hetchy, and it's going to impact down the line City, County, San Francisco. As you know, Tuolumne County being the only incorporated county in the state of California with no water rights, we need to reach across the river to Stanislaus, the Stanislaus River watershed, to work with those agencies and those NGOs, because that's where we get our water under contract purchased through PG&E to TUD. We have to expand our silos, our way of doing things. And this is what DWR, Department of Water Resources, is asking us to do. These projects, and I believe there were 29 of them that are in this IRWIMP plan, they're kind of individual in what they are now, but when we submitted that grant application, I think it was March or April, we did our best to tie them together and show how they worked together. And we have $3.8 or $9 million that showed how 22 agencies under the MOU, NGOs included, John Buckley sitting at the table, the Audubon Society, the Sierra Club, everyone sitting at the table and said, we agree on these, and we're going forward and put them to the state. That's tremendous. So my personal opinion is, yeah, I think you guys would probably be best suited as a water agency at the WAC level. I understand what you're saying, Evan, and I think more discussion will show you how this really wouldn't be like an actual land use issue. Matter of fact, Evan was the first one that came up with this idea of possibly extending one of the huge projects that came out of this. We didn't go forward with it, but was looking at extending a sewer line up Tuolumne Road, because we saw what those failing septic systems above the Tuolumne Rancheria was happening to that water coming through and down Turnback Creek. And we thought, wouldn't it be awesome working with Twain Harte Community Services District, and if we can get, what was it, Sherwood Forest, Ponderosa, if we could get them on sewer and bring it down Tuolumne Road and do something with the sanitary district in Tuolumne, that's what integrated water management is about, and that's what funding to the DWR is about. So that's my speech. Thank you. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions of Ms. Seuss? Anybody else from the public want to speak? Okay, bring it back to the board.
I don't think we have action, do we?
Well, we need give them direction.
Right, for tomorrow, basically, probably at this point, it's going to be verbal discussion tomorrow, presentation. And again, I think what I heard is we could voice some support for a JPA form of governance, details to follow, and to make sure that the plan clarifies those areas of the roles and responsibility, well, that the WAC is to be established through the JPA, and that somehow through this, that that it is very clear that the governing board, however constructed, will have final authority over all matters, and not be period. That's it. Just make sure that the plans and the JPAs reflect that.
And I think we need to have board discussion about where we participate and which agency participates. What I'm hearing here is water agency. I don't know if that's unanimous, but I think there's a lot of direction that way.
I'd actually, having participated in several of the meetings with you and now listening to the board, I really think it would be very useful, since we don't have to make that decision right away, that staff go back and work up a recommendation on that, based on what you've heard today from the various supervisors, and then come back and we should discuss it and make that decision later.
Right. And I'm thinking that probably the second meeting of September will give us time, and then we see how the plans are developed and incorporate all these comments today. That is a separate decision.
Okay, so have you got what you need?
I believe so. If everyone's in agreement with that, then I think that would be clear.
Okay. With that, we're going to take a 10-minute break, come back here at 10:30, which will be at 10:45, and we'll reconvene.
Retreat with county department heads.
Mr. Pedro?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'll make this as short as I can. That your board has expressed in the past to start establishing an annual planning retreat between the board and county department heads and CAO staff. I've tried to put my ear to the ground as best I can, just amongst individual board members, as to if we did have such a retreat, what might go into such a retreat. and I've offered a potential agenda, for that, and again, potential. This is the first time we've been able to, sit and actually talk about it, as a group. I did pass out, so if you wanted to, just refer to this one sheet as a potential draft agenda. And again, whatever your board directs that you'd like to have done. Again, just listening to folks, thought there'd be a start off with a welcome and introduction where we could talk about some of the major changes in county government over the years, general state of the county, and some of the board's efforts to be ever more purposeful in both its planning and budgeting, just to provide a framework for some discussion to follow. There's some desire by board members to hear kind of a state of the department from your various department heads. And again, these would be concise and follow a similar outline. One of the keys would be including what are some of the emerging trends that the departments, what are some of the upcoming challenges, best practice type things that each would see in their areas, and what are some of those priority resource needs. And then we could launch into a discussion of your 5-year program and major projects plans, which does need to be updated each year, and that's a key document to set forth what you want to be the board's major areas of emphasis and relative priority. And then I'd heard desire to also talk about the 14-15 budget and what are some expected changes and issues for that year, and then some dialogue amongst board members with department heads to begin the dialogue of what kinds of things you would like to see by way of priorities and emphases as we begin work on the 14-15 year budget. And some may say, well, gosh, we're just wrapping up the budget hearing on the 13-14 budget. You got 14-15, but I think the board's starting to see the cycle of things. We'll be moving right into the 14-15 budget cycle in January is when that effort begins. On the back, I'd put just kind of a general outline that I discussed with department heads the other day, just trying to get their input on this too. What might a state of the departments look like? And again, each would follow a similar type outline. Perhaps have them speak to the quality of service that they currently provide, their ability to meet the service demands today, speak to just the general morale of their staff, and kind of a fun thing just to put in there, what they're most proud about as far as what's happening in their departments. And then under the emerging trends, really focusing on the upcoming challenges. These are themes I know your board has expressed interest in. They're things we're going to have to face: retirements, succession, demands associated with state and federal directives, things like the AB 109, the Affordable Care Act, and so forth, service demands associated with a changing economy, best practices, et cetera. And then again, all this would have to be just short snippets as far as their priority resource needs in the areas of staffing, training, technology, equipment, facilities. And they don't have to hit on each one of these things. And again, the idea would be their time would be limited, but give the board at least a good sense of what's going on in your departments, what they're looking at, and that would help inform your discussions on your 5-year program and projects plans and the discussion relative to the 14-15 budget. So that's my best offering based on what I could discern talking to board members individually and talking with department heads. So I offer that as a potential agenda, again, however you want to change that. And just trying to put together some potential dates. I think I need more time to check everyone's calendars. It's proving more challenging than I thought. But perhaps today we could at least determine what you do want on that kind of an agenda.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Corey.
Mr. Pedro, at our first ever planning retreat that we had, we did invite the other elected officials. Is that something that we would contemplate?
Absolutely. They're part of this.
Okay. I just want to make it clear that they're going to be part of it.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we're still working on a date. Do you want us to give you additional comments on agenda now, or you want us to look at it and give them to you and then come back again? How do you want to do it?
That's your discretion. I can take them now or take them individually, and I can bring it back, when we bring the dates back.
I think that's a good idea. I think just in order of saving time, I think what we got to do is is I'll give you independent comments and then let you assimilate things. We can talk about it when we kind of sift the dates a little more so we can put a date in.
Okay, that's perfect.
But thank you for giving us this input, and then we'll be able to do that. And we'll probably talk about that next meeting or the following meeting, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, item 13, please.
Consideration of rejecting bids for the Twainhart Pool Chemical Storage Facility project.
Is that you?
Yes, it is me. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is one of the pools, Twainhart Pool, that we have grant funding to make a variety of improvements at. We did go out to bid, received only two bids. They're covered in the body of the memo. Both of the bids were substantially over, the cost. Staff did we did have good turnout at the bid walk, the pre-bid walk. We were expecting a good turnout from bidders. Only got 2 of the 8. Two bids from amongst the 8 contractors that came. We went back, talked to the contractors. Why didn't you submit a bid? The plans were clear and such, but they saw the potential of the project growing beyond the cost. It was going to cost more than what we had funds available for. We talked to the architect. He's still convinced that if we can get more pure pool bidders, that we could get better, pricing. Something that we did when we were looking at a major change order on our law and justice infrastructure project. Grabbed our 2 contractors on the board and asked them to look at this with us, and they agreed that we could, probably should, reject these things and go out again. And in the process, we'll look to see if there's some little quality engineering we can do to reduce, some of the elements, still get the core of the work done, but go approach it a little bit differently to try and save money. So that's really what staff's recommending, is just to reject the bids. We'll work on the scope with the architect, rebid it, but given the season, it's very sensitive when you can start playing with pools with groundwater levels. That we'll come back with a new scope, new bids for your board to consider as a whole. And the soonest that we could possibly get out and do this thing would be probably next spring. And it may not be until the following fall, it just depends.
The non-bidders, were they saying that the scope was not sufficiently defined, that they were worried about cost overruns because we didn't define it well enough?
No, they actually said the scope was clear, but they felt the cost was going to be higher. And when we talked to the architect about it, and this is someone who does pools all the time, he felt the problem was we had too many general contractors that didn't have pool experience.
Okay.
And that we need to make a better effort to get people who do pools and only pools, was his input. Again, getting some feedback, from Supervisors Royce and Gray, there's probably some elements that we could also modify in the plan, still get the functionality we want, but maybe get it at a lesser cost as well. But it sounds like the key is getting to, pool contractors, not so much more so than general contractors.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Supervisor Royce?
Just recalling one point that was made during the meeting was the lining currently that's there is a fiberglass lining that's somewhat failing. It's peeling away, and it's a little bit of an antiquated system. So what we proposed, the original scope proposed patching that, and it intimidated a lot of the prospective bidders because they were concerned that it's going to keep failing and it's not going to work out and they're going to be subject to liability. So what we proposed was a different solution, just remove that and just surface the whole thing with the plaster that is going to give us another 20, 30 years versus a failing system which is already in place. So we're hoping that helps get more bidders, which pool contractors actually deal with that. So I think there was only, 1 or 2 people in the state that actually do that type of lining, so you're having to deal with a sub. And a lot of the bidders we had, they were all, sub bids. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. Any further comments from the board? Any public comment? Chair would entertain a motion.
I'd be happy to move on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion by Supervisor Royce, second by Supervisor Gray. Any final comments? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Should read item 14, please.
Consideration of approving an agreement with BMI Imaging Systems, Inc.
Mr. Caetano.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ken Catano, Assessor Recorder, and emphasis on recorder today. With the help of County Council, we've hammered together an agreement with BMI Incorporated to do a conversion of 1,000 rolls of microfilm. Well, that 1,000 rolls of microfilm also represents several thousand cubic feet of volumes, bound volumes that the recorder's office has put together over the last century and a half or so. And this 1,000 rolls of microfilm we keep now in secure storage out at the archive because it is the historical basis of all of the documents that have ever been recorded in Tuolumne County. And as you can tell, they're of great. We believe in redundancy also because the books, being paper, they have a potential for being damaged. The microfilm also is a fragile item that can have damage to it if not properly taken care of and kept in a microfilm to digital images is technology that has only come to us in the last decade, and we're not the first ones to jump on the bandwagon with converting to digital images. We've waited until about half of the other counties have already done this conversion. So the main reason for doing this is public access, because it's not easy to look at some of those volumes. They're heavy, they're awkward, and if people want copies, they're heavy and awkward for our staff to flip those over on a copy machine to make copies for people that want those. And as I said, the microfilm is fragile, and the microfilm readers of today are not very good at they're cranky. They're not easy to deal with. So by doing this conversion, we can have this digital archive that allows the public to also search those documents. At least I do have to make a provision here that some of those documents are handwritten copies of deeds that were recorded back before the 1930s, and only the ones that are typewritten can be scanned and do an optical character recognition to where they can actually be searchable documents, which will be over 80 years of those documents will now be available as searchable PDF documents. So there's just a wealth of information out there that could be searched by the public. And hopefully, once we get the word out, people will come use our terminals inside our offices. We would plan to have at least one at the archive so that people are doing research on genealogy or whatever research they're doing on the history of the county would have access to this digital archive. So with that, I will tell you that it was approved by the Information Technology Steering Board and was part of the project list that was approved by your board back in June. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, and I also have Mike Alfrank, who's a representative of BMI here, if you ask some technical questions that I can't answer.
No, one thing that's in my briefing here that you didn't say, and just for the public benefit, how are you going to fund this?
That's a very good question. The fee for doing this conversion is $83,800. However, I'm not sure when this went into effect, but the recorder's office has been collecting $1 for every document that's recorded and putting that into a trust fund just to be earmarked solely for doing micrographics. And this is exactly what that fund was set up to do, was to provide a vehicle to pay for these type of projects.
So you have the money?
We have the money. We have actually collected, the last time I checked, it was over $200,000 in that micrographics trust fund. Again, I don't want to see the dollar signs in your eyes there. Remember, it's earmarked just for micrographics.
Trying to steal his money already.
Is he looking at you or me?
He's looking at me.
I won't ask the question anyway. He was looking at you.
Both of you.
Okay, any questions from the board? How about public comment or question? Good job. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to ask somebody to make a motion. I'm sorry.
I move to, on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion by Supervisor Rotifer, second by Supervisor Gray. Any final comments, questions, public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, we are going to recess the Board of Supervisors temporarily, and we are going to reconvene as the Tuolumne County Board of Equalization. And we will ask the clerk to read item 15, please.
How about 15A? Is that okay?
15A will be fine.
Consideration of approving minutes of April 2, 2013.
I so move.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Gray, second by Supervisor Royce. Any public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Would you read item 15B?
Consideration of approving a stipulation for reduced assessment for application 19-2012-13 from $731,250 to $705,900 for California State Automobile Association.
All right. Also in the audience, I have Kevin Townsend, the Assistant Assessor, who has been instrumental in putting together all of the stipulations that are here before you today. So I'm going to let Kevin take over and explain 15B for you.
Good morning, Kevin Townsend, Assistant Assessor. 15B, that would be stipulation for reduced assessment on application 19 for the 2012-2013 fiscal year. That's the AAA building, and we had valued that under a decline in value assessment, so it was already under what we call Prop 8 reduction. We had assessed it at $731,250, and the assessor is required to look at that every year. The applicant argued that our value was still too high and that we should have it valued at $650,000. Well, we went back and forth looking at some data, and we both agreed that $705,900 was something we could both live with, and we asked that your board accept that value in this stipulation.
Any questions?
No.
Public? Chair would entertain a motion.
I'd move approval of the reduction as stated by staff.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Royce, second by Supervisor Rotifer. Any final comments? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. 15C, please.
Consideration of approving a stipulation for a reduced assessment for application 20 in tax roll 2004-5 from $9,608 to zero for NetJets Aviation, Inc.
Okay, if you remember back in April, we had some stipulations similar to these come to you regarding flight options, and there was a court case that was decided in June of 2012 that said that the assessment of fractional interest in these airplanes was unconstitutional prior to 2007. And so what we're asking is that your board accept the stipulation to reduce the value from $9,608 to zero.
For the year 2004-5?
Yes, for 2000. This application here is for 2004, 2005.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question, just a procedural question. In the interest of time, can we address C, D, and E as one item?
You can. The clerk just needs to read all of the items.
Okay.
You can do that. You read D and E?
Do we have a motion for the other one, or do you want me to put them all together now?
Well, I think we're going to try and do all of them at once.
Okay.
They're all the same.
D and E. D is consideration of approving a stipulation for reduced assessment for application number 19, tax roll 2005-6 from $29,195 to zero for NetJets Aviation. And E is consideration of approving a stipulation for reduced assessment for application 17, and that tax rolls 2006-7 from $46,452 to zero for NetJets Aviation, Inc.
I move that we...
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Kevin, when these go back to zero, we're going back to 2006, 2007. What happens after that date? They're still zero?
Well, we don't know yet. There's two more of these assessments that are out there for 2007 and 2008 that we haven't agreed to yet because we think that they're still valid. NetJets thinks that they're unconstitutional also, so those haven't been resolved yet.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I'll move on staff recommendation on items C, D, and E.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comment, question, public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now adjourn the Tuolumne County Board of Equalization and reconvene the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors. And I would ask the clerk to read item 16.
First reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.24, Section 2.24030, subsection E of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code regarding the authority of the purchasing agent to engage in independent contractors to perform sundry services.
I believe that's you, Ms.
That is-
Carrillo.
Yes, members of the board, I'm asking for a one-word amendment to this ordinance, and that word is annual. The chapter establishes a purchasing agent, which is our CAO or his designee, and it allows the purchasing agent to enter into contracts when the aggregate amount does not exceed the amount set forth in Government Code Section 2550.3. That amount fluctuates based on the Consumer Price Index, and currently it's $59,626. Our ordinance code and the government code used to be consistent in their language, but in 2009, the government code was amended to allow the purchasing agent more flexibility. It now allows the purchasing agent to enter into contracts when the annual aggregate amount does not exceed $59,626. So our ordinance code was not amended, and now it is inconsistent with the government code. The attorneys in our office reviewed this code and this matter in response to concerns from some departments. They would like the ability to enter into contracts on a more expedient basis. These are fairly low amount contracts. They're usually multi-year terms, and if they're multi-year terms that exceed the $59,626, then they all need to come before the board, as opposed to the purchasing agent just having the authority to sign off on those contracts. So our office is recommending that in order to be more efficient and allow our departments more flexibility, that your board go ahead and waive the first reading of the ordinance and then set it for a second reading and adoption at the next meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions? What kind of projects are we talking about?
We see a lot of behavioral health contracts. We see a lot of social service contracts for consultants doing, for instance, something like lactation consulting. These are low amounts contracts.
Sorry I asked.
I'm sorry. That's the most recent one that came to my head. But these are low amount contracts. The issue is for multi-year, they're exceeding the aggregate amount. If we followed the government code, they would not exceed the annual aggregate amount.
Okay.
I'll give another not-so-provocative example, but I know we're working very hard on developing an application for our SB 1022 funding for the jail, and one of the sub-consultants that we desire to use, we went through an RFP process, and we've already gone ahead and been able to approve that to keep that work moving. We know it's consistent with what the board wants, and there's an example.
Okay. Okay, any public comment? Chair will entertain a motion.
Move on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, that recommendation is we're waiving the first reading.
Yes, setting it for a second.
Okay. Any final comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll go to item 17. Read that, please.
Consideration of awarding and executing an agreement with the Chester Ross to perform the work as shown in the plan, specifications, and bid book for contract 1652.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Tanya Allen, Supervising Engineer for the Community Resources Agency Engineering Division. As you recall, Engineering proposed a 2013 road improvement list that your board selected the reconstruction of Lime Kiln Road from Campo Seco Road to Championship Drive. Engineering prepared plans, specifications, and requested from your board to advertise this project. Bids were received on July 25th of 2013 by Chester Bross Construction and George Reed in the amounts of, including the base bid and the alternate bid, of $498,290 and $518,890 respectively. County Council has reviewed the lowest bidder, and Chester Bross Construction is a responsive bidder. The construction of this project is anticipated in September, and it is recommended that your board award and execute a contract in the amount of $498,290 with Chester Bross to perform the work as shown on the plans, specifications, and in the bid book for the contract number 1652, Lime Kiln Reconstruction.
Okay, any questions?
Just a quick question on the company. I'm not really familiar with it. I see it's from Montana.
Missouri.
Okay. I'm over on it.
Yes.
So they're able to compete. I see the office of Valley Springs, but it seems odd that we didn't get more local bidders on this.
Yes. During our pre-bid meeting, there were a couple more representatives at that pre-bid meeting, but they chose not to bid on this project. And some of them chose to be subs on this project for both bidders that supplied a bid.
Okay.
Ms. Allen, I'm looking at this. We had $673,000 set aside for this. That's page 2.
I believe, well, we originally brought forward to your board when we went to advertise for bid of $770,000, and due to the cost savings of the bids being lower than the engineer's estimate, we're saving $96,959, which will then in turn go towards the secondary project that was approved by your board on May 21st with the reconstruction of Woodham Carn.
Yes. I'm looking at your note in item 4. Are we approving the base bid, well, 3 and 4, are we putting the base bid or the base bid plus the alternate?
You're approving the base bid plus the alternate.
Okay. And so your engineering estimate was $568,700, it says here, for both of those. And while George Reed was within 10% of that, it looks like Chester Bross was a little more than 10% under that. Is that a problem?
Chester Bross was 89.36, and
Yeah, but that's more than 10% of the
it is.
estimate.
It's, in our discretion, close to 10%. Both bids are fairly close, so that's why we did not perform an engineering analysis.
Reed he was more like 8-something. But anyway, okay. So that's okay. I just didn't want us to violate any rule that you've had down there.
No, what that usually means is we need to verify whether or not there is any discrepancies in the bids if they're not within 10%, depending on how many bids you get. So then you perform an engineering analysis to make sure that your bids aren't weighted in any way.
So basically, you're saving another $70,000 that we can put toward Woodham Karn.
Correct.
I love it. Okay. Just wanted to make sure everybody understood we were saving some more money here.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, more questions to the board? Public? Chair to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the contract in the amount of $498,290 with Chester Bross for work on Hill Road.
Is there a second?
Happily second.
Okay, we have
To see
a whole chorus of
100,000
seconds.
That's because we're going to get Woodham's Karn.
That's what I'm so excited about.
One more question, because I get asked this question routinely, and just for the record, how soon do you expect to start construction?
Construction is supposed to start in September, hopefully.
September.
Yes.
Please make note of that, everybody. Okay. Any final comments from the board? Question from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Good job. Thank you. 17? We did 17. That's 18.
Consideration of accepting the notice of completion for the Special Districts Pavement Rehabilitation Project 2012.
Again, I'm Tanya Allen with the Community Resources Agency Engineering Division. Special Districts administers and maintains the county service areas. In front of you is the notice of completion for the contract that went out for the fiscal year of 2012-13 maintenance contract, which focused on surface treatments. This contract was awarded on July 3rd of 2012, and it was substantially complete on September 20th of 2012. It was brought to our attention by some of the property owners that they were concerned with the Cape Seal that was placed on their roads. So engineering negotiated with the contractor for repairs in those areas at no additional cost. We were able to extend the warranty period for 2 years, and the final work was completed on August 1st of 2013. So it is recommended that you accept the notice of completion for the Special Districts Pavement Rehabilitation Project 2012, contract number 1640, and authorize the chair to sign for the notice and file the notice.
Are the residents happy?
To my knowledge, they are, yes.
Okay. I remember we had a meeting with them, that's why.
Yes.
I asked that question. Okay. Any questions from the board? Public? Entertain a motion.
Move on staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Royce, second by Supervisor Gray. Any final questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 19, please.
Consideration of approving a standard agreement for professional services with MGE Engineering for services associated with the design of a bridge and roadway for the Algerine Wards Ferry Road Crossing Blanket Creek Bridge Replacement Project.
I've seen you before.
One last time, Tanya Allen, Supervising Engineer of the CRA Engineering Division. In front of you today is a contract for civil engineering services to provide a bridge selection report, bridge type selection report, preliminary bridge and roadway design to complete the environmental studies for the Algerine Wards Ferry Crossing Blanket Creek Bridge Replacement Project. This project is fully funded by the Highway Bridge Program and the use of toll credits at 100%. Based on our underground conditions discovered by the geotechnical borings, the anticipated structure that was described in the funding application will no longer work. This was a multi-plate structure or a precast arch structure using shallow foundations. We have looked at hiring MGE to provide these services to determine what type of bridge selection report now with the new conditions of the underground situation. So what we're looking at in front of you today is only for Phase 1 in the amount of $159,417, which will determine the scope of work necessary to determine what type of structure and complete the environmental document. And as noted on the second page, it says the total estimate cost of the consultant contracts are $310,000. This includes all your surveying contracts, your environmental with biological, cultural. So that total amount for all those contracts is $310,000, and the $457,000 is including our time for staff to administer those projects or administer those contracts.
Okay, any questions? Public? Supervisor Gray?
Mr. Chairman,
We're bridging in District 4, I believe.
Seems like it. I move that we approve the standard agreement for professional services with MGE Engineering in the amount of $457,250. Is that correct?
And $159,417.
And $159,000.
Just that, for that contract.
That's my motion.
Supervisor Rutherford, would you like to second that? I mean, it's pretty close to your district. I think your constituents.
I can see it from my district. I'll second that.
You can see it from your backyard. Okay. So I have a motion by Supervisor Gray, a second by Supervisor Rutherford. Any final questions, comments? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 20, please.
She's been waiting patiently.
I know she has. I want to try and get through her.
Consideration of approving a contract with Nevada County to house Tuolumne County detained youth in the Carl F. Bryan II Juvenile Hall Facility.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Adele Arnold, Chief Probation Officer. Before you is a new contract for the detention of our juveniles. It's with Nevada County, and Nevada County is offering us a deal we really can't refuse. It's a $90 per bed day rate, and they will not charge us unless we have a child in that bed. Additionally, if we are placing post-disposition after the court has determined the treatment plan and the outcome for that juvenile, they will come and pick up that child and transport them themselves back to Nevada County. So, as I said, it's a huge savings to us, not only in our contract rate, but also in the additional cost of getting our juveniles to and from Tuolumne County. This is being done by the Nevada County Juvenile Hall because at this time they have an abundance of bed space available. Their average daily detention rate is down to about 10 juveniles. They have a 60-bed facility. They are currently only functioning one pod at 30, and they have a little more than half of their beds empty. So they have extended this contract to many counties in this area that do not have juvenile facilities so that they can keep their programming robust and keep their staff working. It can change at any time. It is an open-ended contract. There is a clause in there for a 30-day written notification to change the rate or to terminate the agreement with us. But at this time, we are moving forward. Our contract with Yolo County, which is where we had been taking our juveniles for several years, expired the end of June. I did renew the contract on a space available only rate of 120 per day. Often we may have juveniles that need to be separated or may have different issues, so we may continue to need that. I'll remind you, we also have a contract for space available if needed in Kern County, and we keep some of our options open should we have that need. But at this time, I am asking the board to approve the contract with Nevada County going forward for the detention of our juveniles.
Okay, any questions? Public? Supervisor Rutherford.
In the inimitable words of my predecessor, this is a no-brainer. I move on staff recommendation.
Motion by Supervisor Rutherford, a second by Supervisor Royce. Any final questions or comments? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. We have time to do 21, I'm sorry. 21. We did 22. Let's read 21 and then...
Okay, consideration of adopting the Community Correction Partnership Plan for fiscal year 2013-14 and associated budgetary items, approving the First Amendment to the BI Inc. contract, and designating the sheriff as a correctional administrator pursuant to the Penal Code 1202.016 and 1203.016 and 1203.017 for the purposes of voluntary and involuntary release from custody and replacement of the electronic monitoring program.
And this requires a 4/5 vote? That's what it says.
Yes, part of it does because part of it's related to the budget, is my understanding.
Actually, if your board approves this, we'll incorporate this into the final budget. So it does not require 4/5 vote today.
Likely to get it, but anyway, okay.
Yeah, we always try to get this planned before the budget to make sure you're good with it. And if you are,
Okay.
then we put it in the budget.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Adele Arnold, Chief Probation Officer and Chair of the Community Corrections Partnership for Tuolumne County. I will remind you, in terms of adopting the plan, if you choose not to adopt the Community Corrections Plan, you send it back to the board, and we will then make any modifications or changes that might be deemed necessary or recommended and come back. But that is the wording of the legislation on CCP plans. I'm going to try to keep this brief. I know you have an 11:30 appointment. I want to tell you that Rita Austin, Behavioral Health Director, was here earlier but had to leave because of another commitment. And Under Sheriff Pooley is here with me. I want to tell you we've worked very hard this year on our plan. This is the third year, so maybe this is the charm, but it went quite smoothly, and I think that we have continued to build very well on our base core program. You recall that the very first year of funding, we established our detentions to alternative site. We brought in BI to run a day reporting center. We expanded our work release program. We established a special response team consisting of a deputy sheriff and 2 armed probation officers. We have continued to run all of those programs, also a day treatment program out at our space. Last year, our second year of the plan, we added to the core services and provided a mental health treatment component piece. The purpose of that was to provide early on services for individuals, both AB 109 offenders and any other offender that was sentenced under 1170 of the code, to try to provide services to them so that we could get them back into the community and hopefully stop that revolving door of our mentally ill getting recommitted to confinement because they weren't able to manage the rules that typically they are subject to under terms and conditions of probation or mandatory supervision. So that team has worked. We put some money into that for medication. Often individuals will come out, they report to us, and in that early intake process, they are out of medication, they lose their medication, or whatever may happen. And they very quickly decompensate to the point that they may end up back in custody. So by providing that additional support, that medication, if needed, that assistance, we've been able to bolster their ability to stay in the community and be successful. Also, we added some district attorney victim witness monies to help their program to notify victims when offenders are released from custody because of the requirements under Marcy's Law and other notifications. That also kicks into play with electronic monitoring. If someone is released from custody on a monitor, there's also a notification process that must kick in to victims. So we've increased that part of the program. We have brought in our electronic monitoring, our GPS, and in this third year, we have switched that over to BI, our contract agency, kind of as a economies of scale to help. They've got our other programs. They're also able to do some collections for us, and it's working quite well. They're doing the hookups and putting all of the scheduling of our people into the computer, so it has worked well. This year we began to meet in June, and we sent out requests to our community partners on what they thought might need to be added to our program this year. We met at the end of June to consider those, and the CCP then met to approve a budget of $1.756 million. We are slated to get approximately $1.420 million this year, and I'll remind you that we continue to have money in our reserve, also under a committee called, I believe it's the RAC, that is being headed up by CSAC. They have been doing a lot of work on formulating growth funding. Our anticipated number continues to be pretty stable at about an additional $300,000 that should come to us sometime in the fall. So that can also go back into our contingency money. So in this year's plan, we have allocated $1.756 million, and recognizing that plan, again, we will be going into our reserve at $336,000. Staff positions added this year included 2 jail deputies, a jail specialist, a deputy probation officer, and a work release coordinator. All of those positions are budgeted to start October 6th after the adoption of the budget. Additional programs this year, as you recall, on July 2nd, you approved a 26-month contract with BI for the continuance of the Day Reporting Center in the amount of $390,000 annually. That was an increased contract to add a substance abuse component, also to provide the electronic monitoring piece, and to move our slated slots in the Day Reporting Center from 50 to 75. So that is where the increase is. Presently, just as a side note, we've got about 28 people on the electronic monitoring program, 25 adults, 3 juveniles, 23 are using the global positioning services, GPS, and 5 are on TAD units. That's the transdermal alcohol detection unit, and one of those is a juvenile out of the 4 adults on that. We are continuing to add to the pre- and post-trial program for services in the jail. As you all know, I certainly don't need to tell you anything new that our jail is busting at the seams and was before AB 109. So we are working really hard to look at alternatives and look at implementing the risk assessment to determine classification and risk to the community, working with the jail very closely to bring individuals out on an electronic monitoring device and perhaps being put into our work program. There is an inmate work program that has been recommended for adoption in our CCP plan this year. That is where one of the jail deputy positions that's new would be going. They would be working with the additional new work release coordinator we wish to add and take inmates that are on long sentences in our jail out 5 days a week to do work in the community. That will be in another portion of our work release program. They will be supervised at all times, and they will be going back into custody in the evening after the work crew is done. We also have a BI inmate program, and this is something that I know Under Sheriff Pooley is very excited about. It is going to take services that are being provided right now at the Day Reporting Center into the jail. I believe that the jail commander, McCaig, has done wonders in the jail in finding and carving out a little spot where they can do assessments and they can do some programming in the jail. So the contract is for $99,000. This year, it's to provide some substance abuse counseling, some vocational skills, some educational skills, some of the MRT services, the cognitive services that are being done at the Day Reporting Center right now in the jail, so that when they're released, they can seamlessly transition into the community program. There are 30 slots available in that program, and that will be run 5 days per week. In addition to the pre- and post-trial program, there is something that needs to be added this year that I am recommending, and that is that this board designate the sheriff as the correctional administrator pursuant to sections 1203.016 and 017, which allows for voluntary and involuntary release from custody onto an electronic monitoring program. That piece is essential before we can proceed with this matter, and the sheriff is certainly more than willing to take on that designation. It will allow us to work with the jail and with our programs to bring offenders out of custody. They do get custody credits for that period of time that they are on the electronic monitoring program. So that is one of the recommendations, is that you designate the sheriff as the correctional administrator. We have also allocated money to ATCA. ATCA, from the inception, has been working very closely with us to try to alleviate some of the stress of some of our AB 109 in people that have come out of prison that are homeless, and helping to work with them to get them into some kind of rental assistance or subsidized housing. They are allocating up to $1,000 per offender. They have asked for a $200 contribution from the AB 109 program for offenders that are AB 109 designated. So we have allocated $4,000, which will cover 20 clients this year, and we'll start with that and see how we do with that allocation. Part of that agreement is that if they are providing home assistance to them, my compliance team will go and monitor the staff, make sure that they do checks to make sure they're meeting their rental agreement and they're not causing problems in their housing environment, that they're meeting all rules. So far that's worked quite well. In the probation unit, we've added deputy probation officer to work with the mental health component program to provide reports to the court on the electronic monitoring, early releases from the jail, and do assessments and provide that kind of liaison. We've been really inundated with reports. My staff have been doing a good job, but they could certainly use another probation officer to help in the report that are mandated by the court. We've increased the, excuse me.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
We have also added additional funding to the district attorney's office for notification services. It's equivalent to about one position in their victims advocate. The mental health piece, I put that in there because we did add a psychiatric nurse as part of that team. There are no mental health or behavioral health staff that have been added. What has been added is a menu of time in terms of what their hourly costs are. When they need to be brought into the treatment triage team for services to a mentally ill offender, they then charge back to the grant for the hours and the time that was allocated. We believe that the mental health or psychiatric nurse will really help in managing services seamlessly as someone needs to see a psychiatrist, may need to get into housing, may need additional services. She will be working with that team. And then there is, because of the increase in the contract, there are some modifications to the day reporting center. When we moved in there, it seemed like just a few months ago, actually, we thought we had so much space. Well, with the addition of the increase in the BI contract, we have to divide that back office into more workstations because they will be adding 3 additional staff to Tuolumne County to handle all the services that they're taking on. So there's about $30,000 in equipment for added phone lines, computer drops that we need to put in, and some modifications, including workstations there. So that's our plan for this year. I think we're moving very well. I think we're working real well together. I am sad to report that Deputy DeRocher, who's been an awesome addition to our team from the Sheriff's Department, is leaving us to take employment in San Mateo County, and I'm keeping everything I have crossed that we'll get an equally impressive deputy to replace him, because he really has helped my team come along in the arming capacity especially, and in doing high-risk field supervision checks and compliance checks out there. So,
Just give a quick comment. I really like the inmate work program. I think that's something that's going to really help with being out there. The other thing is the addition to the victim witness advocate. I think that was really needed. We cut that back a number of years ago. So kudos to the plan. I know it's growing, it's live, and it looks like it's getting better.
Supervisor Royce?
Sure. I would agree with what Supervisor Gray stated. I think those are good things. I did have a couple questions about the $99,000 for the substance abuse program. And I think I heard you say this. There's going to be 3 additional staff people that are going to help facilitate this program. So is that what we're paying for, staff time, or are we paying for a template for the program? Or?
The $99,000 is for the additional inmate program for the jail. These are the services that are going into the jail. So that's an additional staff member that will be dedicated to that program 5 days per week, plus all of the curriculum and work that needs to be done in the jail.
So the program along with one staff person to administer that?
Right.
Okay. And that's what you're saying, Undersheriff Pulley's excited about that or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
Nodding his head,
Would you agree with
You
that,
look excited.
Doesn't take you much to get excited, does it?
It is essential to our AB 109 efforts or excuse me, not our 109, our SB 1022 efforts to secure a grant for a new jail facility, that we are able to demonstrate that we are doing programming, however difficult that is. And in that jail, as you all know, it is tough, extremely difficult. I was amazed that Tamara was able to carve out some space in there, and that will really provide a good, seamless transition into the community. So, I mean, kudos to them, because they really have embraced that, and I think it will help our program overall.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Just a quick comment. I appreciate all the collaborative efforts between the different agencies, whether it's DA or sheriff or probation. I think that's extremely important for the community to have, public safety and all the different components work together. So good job, and appreciate it, and keep doing that.
Mr. Royce, would you care to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Okay.
You know what I mean.
Any final comments or questions? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. You got 4/5.
Thank you.
Okay. We have, it is an 11:30 in Tuolumne County, and so would you read our 11:30 appointment?
Presentation on the update of the Tuolumne County website at www.tuolumnecounty.ca.gov.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Daniel Richardson, Deputy County Administrator. Before you today, we are pleased to be able to present the new county website. Let me just read to our application that we made to get this particular website application from a company called Civic Plus. This is back in 2011. We wrote to them, said the county's current website developed in 2004, so it's almost been a decade. Addressed the need to have a web presence, but unfortunately lacks the ability to project the image deserved by this region. And so the Board of Supervisors on December 6, 2011, we adopted a strategic plan that included replacing the county's website. Last year, in 2012, the board did approve a contract with Civic Plus to develop our new website. Well, we're now, 7 months later, 8 months later, and we are pleased to present to you the, we'll call it a draft website because it's not live yet, but this is the look and feel. We're going to go through what is going to be live on your website. We have changed the actual date, the go-live date, to September 5th. and because the website continues to be a work in progress, it will always be, but there are just some things that we're still tweaking, and we want to make sure we project the proper image when we actually go live. So we're excited. This has been a long process, and a lot of thanks go to those who have participated in the website development process. So here while we were out there in the audience, an emergency came up on our website saying that indeed the website is going to go live. So today if this were live, we would obviously have a rim fire emergency alert update here, and then you would click on that and you get more information about that particular alert. At the same time, if Standard Park was rained out, they didn't have softball games, you would not see emergency alert here, but you would see emergency alert on the recreation web page. And they would also be able to receive text alerts or emails to those participants who sign up to receive those types of alerts. So anyway, that was kind of fun. We were sitting down there and said, hey, the alert came up. It works. Let me just go through the overall website. By the way, to my left here, our Van White is Bob Chapman. He's our project coordinator from Information Technology, and Bob has been integral, a very important piece of making this all work. So here we have our home page. Our home page design has 3 different pictures that we're able to select. One of Railtown, one of downtown Sonora, and the third is of New Maloney's, and you'll see those scroll through as you click on the website. Across the top, we're going to go through from top to bottom of your home page, and I'll describe what is contained in each of these sections. You have on your left Tuolumne County, California. That will always get you back to the home page as you click on it, so you always have a home area. And then you have across the top, government, community, business, visitors, and how do I. These are called mega menus because as you hover over them, it brings down a wealth of information. The government particularly focusing on the various departments and services that are available through Tuolumne County government. We're trying to, and then you go to community. If you are a resident of the community, what other services would you be requiring? Some maybe water, things that the county doesn't necessarily provide, but we want to make sure there are links to those other community resources in addition to what might you want to visit, where might you want to go, volunteer for, or potentially work in Tuolumne County. And then the business area, trying to make links for the businesses may desire, getting to the Chamber of Commerce, getting to the various, how do you get permits, how do businesses operate in Tuolumne County. And then finally, well not finally, the visitor section. Many people come to Tuolumne County. I'm sure they come to the website. I'm going to go visit Tuolumne County. What is there to do? Well, we know there's a lot to do. So we're trying to make sure that this is a nice, accurate representation of what there is to do in Tuolumne County. And then finally, the how do I section on the far right. How do I apply for a commissioner? How do I contact people? How do I get a building permit? How do I look for bid postings? A variety of things. How do I apply for a job? So this is, I'm sure, going to expand over time. Each of these menus will add and will subtract things. We want to make sure that they are encompassing, but at the same time, if there's too much information, some eyes may glaze over as you see too much. That maybe you may not see anything. And so we need to be careful that they're not too big. So anyway, those are the mega menus. Let me just go over the color scheme that we have here as you look at your home page. We tried to choose a color scheme that is reflective of what Tuolumne County is. Green, of course, the forest, and then we have gold, the gold country. And we chose buttons and menus and things that Civic Plus offered. We tried to customize them so they are reflective of our topography. We have a little bit of sloping at the top. Before it was just flat. We wanted to have some different colors weaving in and out to make it more visually appealing to the eye. So I should also note that to get the look and feel of your website, we had we'll call it a multidisciplinary team made up of residents as well as county staff from a variety of departments and areas of the community. Some of those, your board members recommended individuals, and they participated. And I can tell you that, there was a give and take here, because everyone has a different thought of what looks good, what doesn't look good. But I think we came to a good conclusion. Definitely things will change over time, but what we have today is a result of those negotiations, we'll call them. But it was a fun process at the same time. All right. So the mega menus. I should also mention that one of the features of this website is not only is it work on a laptop, as you see, a regular computer, but it also works on iPads, iPhones. It works on touchscreen technology. We've tested that. You don't get as much of the pictures, but you get the information that a user might need. So we are jumping into that world, whereas our current home page doesn't work as well on those smart devices, should we say. So then we move down to the buttons. We chose 5 buttons. We couldn't have unlimited amounts. We had to choose which ones we thought were the services that residents would be most likely interested in. So we chose Notify Me, Service Request, Agendas and Minutes, Online Payments, and Video Tours. Notify Me, a resident can go here and sign up to receive notifications when there are updates to various areas of the website. And so we can go look at all the categories that we've placed on there so far. There's a lot of areas you can say, I want to receive a notification whenever an alert comes up. I can say, I want to know when a bid is posted, when a news flash item comes up, when a department updates their calendar, or anyway, there's a variety of things. So we think this is going to be very helpful for those who want to know, for example, when Mr. Marr posts a new board agenda, they want to receive an email saying it's now available for your viewing. And that person will receive an email, they can come and get the agenda. So very powerful tool. I think the citizens will use this. We hope they use it a lot. The next button is service requests. We think this is going to be very helpful for those who want to report anything going on in the community and want answers to questions. They want to report, I have a pothole on my street. There's a tree down. Where the snow plows, whatever the service might be that they may want, they can come in here and make a request. No live requests at the moment, but this is a great tool. I do know that Bev Shane tested this out yesterday or this week. Actually, it was last week on Thursday, and she reported a pothole, and she routed it through her department and saw how this feature would work. So I think it's going to be a great tool that will be used.
How much storage do we have on the server for that? To store pothole information? Probably not enough.
Not enough. No, this is actually a hosted system. The servers are actually located in Manhattan, Kansas. So we're paying for them to store our data.
Our pothole information.
Lots of pothole requests.
We have a lot of open space there.
And the next one, agendas and minutes. You'll be able to access not just agendas and minutes from the Board of Supervisors, but you can also access agendas and other information from all commissions and committees from the county. We have put in what's called an iframe so that we have the information that comes from Granicus, agenda management system. It shows up and it looks just like as if it's in our county website. People don't know. The citizen is not going to know they've been redirected to another website. It's going to look as if they're still here. So that would be very slick. We're still working on some issues to make this all be flawless, but this is going to be a really good tool for us. So anyway, here it is. You can view it. All right, the next one is our online payments. We're accepting online payments right now for just a few of the departments. We're hoping to expand this. Tax collector, you can pay your taxes online. Revenue recovery, you can pay some of your bills. Child support. There are a few departments who do accept payments online. Most of these are links to other.
Is that through PayPal or something?
A variety. Official payments. But we're trying to work with, many departments want to use this service, and we're working with the tax collector to make this all happen. So Very powerful. And then finally, we have video tours. These are the same videos that John Gray is featured in. They will reside on your new website, which shows... Oh, new actor. Anyway, it highlights Tuolumne County.
You obviously had a high budget.
This is high profile. All right, let me just move down to our area. We have the news flash, calendar of events, and photo gallery area. News flash, this is what's on your current website, the news of the rim fire, county IT, we have the new website. So this will just give the latest articles on what's going on in the county, and you can click on these and it takes you to more information. So that's what's up right now on your website. Then you have your calendar of events. Yes,
just a quick question on that one. Since the rim fire is going on, are we going to have the capability to, like, real-time link to reporting, like the Forest Service is
Yes.
reporting online on that? Could we automatically link to that real quickly so they could get
That's what this is.
You anticipated me. Thank you.
Yes, no, you're exactly right. We need to be able to link to the sources. That will change. This is just a link out. The calendar of events is very good because there are lots of calendars in the county, not just one master calendar. So we have calendars for library, for recreation, for the Board of Supervisors. So you can sign up to receive information on which calendars are of interest to you. So here's all the calendars that currently exist that Bob is showing on the screen, and they'll be added over time. But a very powerful tool. And the final one is the photo gallery. Right now we just have one photo gallery, just shows photos of the county, but we can add photo galleries over time. I should also give credit to our master photographer we have in Peggy Sells, one of our employees. She's not a county-paid photographer, but she does incredible photography work, and she has loaned her work for use on the county's website. So thank you to her and her talents. Then on the left, we do have our menu. So we have just a few menu items. The menu can only be so long, otherwise you'd scroll forever down the screen, but we chose some menu items that we think would be oft used. And, yeah, and I should say that the menu does change by page. As you navigate, for example, to the Board of Supervisors page, we'll go there. The menu has now changed because now it has board forms. And then if you click on one of the board members, now it has a pretty picture up there.
Couldn't find a better picture.
So,
just like me, they have to deal with what you got.
Yeah, I know.
All right. He looks great up there. Finally, I just want to highlight the incredible work that's been done by the departments. Let's go to a department web page now. The departments have been working hard on updating their web pages. Many of them have been to training. We had a Civic Plus trainer come the last week of July, and we trained up scores of county employees. This is not something that's directed that IT makes all the changes. Each department makes their own changes.
Well, everybody has to realize this is not a trivial exercise to maintain a web page. I mean,
Correct.
It takes a lot of effort to keep it current.
Yes, exactly correct. And Mr. Chapman here has been dedicating his last month of his life, seems like, to updating the website with all the department
The last month of his life? I hope it's not the last month of his life.
He's been phenomenal during this process to meet with everyone and to ask them, what do you want to see, how can we accommodate and make it happen. So here's the assessor's office, just some of the information. You can see all of his stuff down the left. It's been a phenomenal process to see all the departments pitch in and make this work. One of the things that each department can do is add all their forms, documents that they want to put on the website, and there are hundreds already out there. If we go to the CAO's office, we go to the reports and documents. Here you can see all the documents that are there. We already have the budget is already loaded. and you can download the county's current budget as soon as the final budget is, we'll post it here next week, so we'll be on the old website, but it'll also be on the new website. So, we're out of time here, but let me just go through some of the modules that we haven't shown that are included in this. We showed the alert came up earlier. We also had bid postings. We have a lot of departments, facilities, all the roads that you saw today, all those bids we would post online here, and all those vendors we will put them into the system. They'll receive alerts when bids in the areas that they're interested become live. I showed the document center. There's also a staff directory where you can get phone numbers for every department out there. I should also mention, as you scroll down to the bottom of the page here, you can see that we have, at the very, very bottom, up a little bit. On the left, you have a little icon for Facebook and Twitter. This information on your home page, the news flash information, will be pushed out to Facebook and Twitter as informational. Citizens will not be allowed to comment, but we will be posting that information there so people can receive information. So I want to make you aware of that. Scrolling down to the very bottom, and also your board will be bringing a social media policy to you to consider for adoption in September. In the very, very bottom, we have a contact us area. How do you get a hold of the county? The frequently asked questions. Let's click on that real quick. Oh, sorry. So we have the departments go out and ask themselves, what are the most frequently asked questions that people have? And so we have, I'll bet you 100 questions out there with answers already, and that will continue to grow over time. So I think that's a very good feature. Number one, of course, is how can I apply for a job? Everyone wants to know, how can I, that is one of the most popular areas of the website.
Yeah.
All right. And then the very final one at the bottom, we have popular links. The most popular ones we put there are Visitors Bureau, Yosemite, Economic Development Authority. But you go there and there are many more links to other agencies.
We can add to that as
there
well.
already are. You
Okay.
go there, here, some of the links that are there. But yes, definitely we can add as many links as we choose over time. So, went quickly over your website. We're continuing to address things as a work in progress, but I just want to say thank you to all the department and all the department heads and their representatives who have spent a lot of time on this. And Mr. Chapman, we also had an executive web team who's been meeting on a weekly basis. It's been developing policy, guiding this whole project. So thanks to them as well.
It has so much more than the old web page, and it looks so much easier to use. But I think what's important is that we talk about transparency. We're really able to create a transparent page that tells people what Tuolumne County is and how it works. So congratulations.
All they got to do is go to the website.
Got to go to the website. That's going to be my standard answer. I'm not going to answer one more question.
Go to the website.
Go to the website.
You're a real friendly guy.
That'll work in an election debate, I'm sure. First of all, really good job. Thanks. It's great. Hopefully, I'm sure you've thought of this, but I just have to mention it. Hopefully, if the address is different, the web address is different, the old address will get you here, and we deactivate the old system completely so nobody can get to the wrong place. But I'm sure you thought of that.
It's the same web address.
Okay.
Or it will be. Yes. Right now it's.
Thanks.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to congratulate you. This is absolutely amazing, and I'm very excited for constituents and visitors, everything. And then as this progresses and we find new ways to improve it, is there going to be a process to do that, or how do you anticipate keeping it current and
Sure.
putting information?
We have like I said, we have a web team that continues to meet.
They'll exist in the future?
Yes. When we created the first website, we actually had like 7 or 8 web teams that just continued to roll. This is always a work in process. Website is never done.
I've got some little ideas, so just seeing what process we'll have for that. So great, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Rutherford, you jumping did say something more.
No, I was going to make a recommendation that at some point what might be useful is a mechanism on the website itself for customer feedback on the website, if that's not already incorporated.
Sure, and there's actually an area where you can do opinion polls. That's exactly where I was going to go, where you could say, what are your thoughts on the website, and we can get input.
Fine.
Okay.
Last one.
No, I'm the last one.
Last one for me.
Oh.
Should be happy to hear that. I don't know if it's something that actually would be valuable or not, but I was thinking maybe of having like a presentation, a community presentation at a future date, like maybe once we actually launch this. I don't know if we could do it in a couple locations or what, but maybe if we could get one or two staff people to kind of give a little rundown like this. I know there's a lot of people that may not be extremely savvy with technology, and it may help them to see some of the options and how to do that, especially with a new format. So maybe that's something we can look at doing as things move into the fall and so forth. So,
sure.
Anyways,
we take our dog and pony show wherever you like.
Sure.
I want to tell you, it really looks good. I've been always disappointed in that I didn't think our current system, which I actually think has gotten a little better, has been that user-friendly and hasn't been that, it hasn't looked that good aesthetically. But this really looks good. Quickie question, where's the vision, mission, and code of ethics? They're on there, I assume.
We actually instructed departments to not put their mission and vision at the top of their webpage, because studies have shown that citizens don't go to the website to see the mission and vision. But yes, most departments have placed their mission and vision statements on the website.
Oh, okay.
So it's there, just not prominently featured at the very top usually.
Okay. Okay, well, it looks good. Now, that's a better picture. Had to say that. Very good. I say congratulations and thank you for all your efforts. You obviously did a lot of the heavy lifting, right?
We all do. Thank you very much.
Well, you spent the last month of your life. I'm sorry that this was terminal. Okay, any final questions, comments? Well, since we've gone a little over time, I think we'll reconvene at 1:30 and we'll do our reports and our closed session items at that time. With that, thank you very much. We'll recess for lunch. Okay, it is 1:30. We'll reconvene the meeting of the Board of Supervisors for August 20th and ask the clerk to read item 23.
Reports.
Let's start with legal counsel.
Sure. So a couple of months ago, Chris Schmidt in our office handled a long, I think it was almost an all-day-long contested hearing for child welfare. It was appealed up to the 5th District Court of Appeals, and we just received word last week that the court ruled in our favor. So I want to congratulate Chris. He put a lot of work into that hearing. For me, on August 8th, I met with Supervisor Rotifer, Bev Shane, and Jim Beatty. Still waiting to hear back from him. On 8/9, I attended a training at Child Welfare regarding safety organized practice and court report writing. On 8/16, I participated in the Water Policy Advisory Committee, and on 8/19, I went to the Quality Improvement Self-Assessment Kickoff for probation and child welfare for their new self-assessment that they're going to do. And you should be really proud of them. They put a lot of work into it, and they're really focusing on how to better the services that are provided to the families in our community. And then Carlin Drivdahl yesterday participated in the Biological Review Committee, and I cannot forget to say that it is her birthday. So please make sure that you tell her happy birthday. Okay, thank you.
We'll go in and sing.
She might not appreciate that.
Or she might.
Clerk of the Board.
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Supervisor Gray.
All right. On August 6th, with the rest of you, I attended Frog, Toad, and lizard hearing at the fairgrounds.
Frog, toad, and frog.
Frog, toad, and frog? Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. And then August 9th, Economic Development Authority meeting. Mr. Cope went over the Hacker Lab experiment and the events that were attended, and very positive outcome according to the consultant. August 13th, the solid waste meeting, and we voted on that subject we discussed on the latex paint, and the reason that we recommend that we waive that fee is because people, when they buy paint, they already pay a fee, so we didn't think it was appropriate to charge them again. August 14th, TCTC, there was a report done on Yards. Yards has almost doubled its ridership this year compared to the last year, which is a good thing. August 15th, the Board of Supervisors Planning Commission. We reviewed the sign ordinance and made some recommendations to move it toward to the board. August 16th, had the pleasure of attending the Yosemite 120 Chamber event to draw the ticket for a gold nugget, a 1-ounce nugget, and the lady was very happy that won it. The money from that goes to help fund the 49er Festival. And let's see, I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rotifer.
Sure. Along with John and the rest of the board and half the county, on the 6th, I attended the congressional hearing. On the 7th, along with Supervisor Royce, I participated in an interview process to select the Sheriff's Department's next lieutenant. On the 8th, I did meet with Mr. Beatty, County Council, and Bev Shane. I also, following that meeting, I had a meeting with Ms. Lee Kimball from the Atka Food Bank, talk about some ideas that she's got. And then I attended the Jamestown Promotion Club. For those of you that don't know what the Jamestown Promotion Club is, it's their equivalent of a Chamber of Commerce. On the 9th, I met with constituents in the morning, attended the ATCA Finance Committee and Board of Directors meeting. On the 10th, as I am wont to do on Saturdays in the summer, I went to the farmers market. On the 11th, I represented the county and presented certificates to the Boy Scout Troop 570 Triple Honor Court recipients. On the 12th, I attended the Farm Bureau meeting. On the 13th, I met with constituents in the morning, and then Mr. Koff on some development issues later in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I attended the Railtown Advisory Committee meeting. On the 16th, I again met with some constituents in the morning. I met with Mr. Gary Wilson, referenced the Harvard Mine Project later in the morning, and I had a lunch along with Supervisor Hanvelt, Chairman Hanvelt, and Larry Cope, where we talked about some economic development issues. I also chaired the special meeting of the Water Policy Committee. And then that evening, I did something that I highly recommend, and that is my wife and I attended the Hearst Ranch Friday night dinners. There's only 2 of them left. They're wonderful social events. They have great music, great food. Friday evenings, highly recommend it. And then on the 17th, I again attended the farmers market. On the 18th, I participated in the Elks annual picnic. On the 19th, I met with constituents in the morning, and then also attended the Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee meeting, and then along with Supervisor Gray, I attended the Airport Advisory Committee meeting, and that is my report.
Supervisor Royce.
Sure. On the 6th, I talked about, or listened to people talk about frogs also. On the 7th, as Carl stated, we sat on a panel to conduct lieutenant interviews for the Sheriff's Department. Later that day, I went up to Dodge Ridge, met with the owners, Frank and Sally Helm, to talk about Dodge Ridge Road. On the 9th, I attended the EDA meeting. On the, 14th, I met with Larry Cope in Tuolumne to talk about Tuolumne City and some revitalization efforts, and later attended the TC meeting that day, which John mentioned. On the 17th, I got to sit in a dunk tank for Rotary up at Epperson Park, and they kindly did not wash out the dunk tank before filling with water, so it looked like a pond. So I think that was a bigger incentive for people paying to dunk me in there. So anyways, that was fun. And then yesterday we had our first BERG meeting. It was a really good meeting. Trying to get off on the right foot with the group to be able to have a clear kind of a process laid out for how we're going to go through the various items we've directed the committee to look at. We're going to kind of start from scratch. Staff's coming back in a month. They're going to compile objectives that are basically summarized from the Board of Supervisors meeting that we had that created the committee, where there was a lot of different things that we said, and Supervisor Pland was there. He also summarized some of the things that the past committee had achieved that we want to make sure pass along. So those things are going to be incorporated into, like I said, a list of objectives, and then we're going to go through the policy documents. We're looking at amending and actually start from scratch, create an outline, and then make sure the outline meets all the objectives that we're trying to achieve, and then fill in the wording instead of working backwards and starting with just redlining existing documents, trying to make something out of it. It's really something completely different. So I'm excited about that. There was talk about thresholds of significance. Some of the committee members had concerns about that, and basically we kind of all got on the same page eventually, and we're in agreement that thresholds of significance, where applicable, are going to be included as part of the general plan element, the conservation open space 4J. And there'll be basically three things. We'll be identifying the types of habitat that we're going to be dealing with, like wetlands, and what particular state or federal regulations governing those things. We're going to be dealing with the threshold of significance, so you know whether a potential resource is or isn't being impacted, and then lay out some various options for mitigating. And so it's similar, but we're going to keep it very simple. Like I said, refer to state laws, and I think we got a good plan. And then later in the day, I met with Gary Wilson and Mr. Estelle, so they could give me their pitch about the mine project, and that's it.
Mr. Pedro.
Mr. Chairman, 3 items to touch on. One is just on the budget. As we're preparing for the September 3rd budget hearing, we've completed, working with Deb Russell, completed almost all of the fund balance calculations. There's just one that we're still working on specifically, was capital, to make sure that that was correct. The revenue team meeting, revenue team, again, assessor, tax collector, auditor, controller, Tracy, myself, went through all the general revenues again, and keeps scraping for more, and that did result in another approximately $83,000 there. We're doing the only major adjustments that we're making in the document between what this board approved in the recommended and what will be presented to you on the 3rd are the kinds of things like today when the CCP plan came. We're putting that in. Ann Connolly, now that she has better information on the Affordable Care Act, some minor changes there with offsetting revenues, but those will be itemized in there. So those kinds of things we're making. There's only a few things that I would consider have-to changes. For example, AT&T increased their line charges, and that's about a $38,000 hit annually. We don't have any choice in that matter, other than to look to maybe get off of AT&T's services.
They didn't get their budget request in early enough.
Yeah. But seriously, I think they're pricing themselves out of service, and so we're evaluating other alternatives, to perhaps switch service over to like Comcast, perhaps when CVIN, comes in, and switching service. But in the meantime, we're not going to have a whole lot of choice, on that kind of stuff. So we're working on that. This is a difficult week with the fires just not cooperating with the normal flow of business, but we're also trying to wrap up making those adjustments in preparation for the hearing. I think what we'll be able to do is meet our absolute, requirements to have a compilation of numbers by Friday, to meet our noticing requirements for the hearing on the 3rd. Some of the narrative and things that make it really presentable may not get, complete until sometime next week. And it's just, so many hours in the day, specifically with the fire here right now. But we'll do our best to meet it and deadline in all respects. I just want to mention on the Natural Resources Committee, on the, a lot of mention of frogs and toads. Just mentioning at that Natural Resource Committee meeting we had, it was dominated with discussions about frogs and toads, and had 4 pages of detailed notes on things, and there will be a supplemental that'll come to this board in the form of a supplemental comment on frogs and toads, and that'll still go. There's still time to go through the Natural Resource Committee, and they'll look at all that on its way to this board. And then there was one deadline for scoping comments on off-road vehicle matters. We did get that letter out last night to meet the deadline. We discussed the main points that the Natural Resource Committee thought should be in it. They specifically wanted us to talk with a gentleman from a off-road vehicle club from Merced. We actually read those comments to him last night and incorporated the ones that he had given us. And Supervisor Brennan happened to be in the office last night, and she said, yeah, go ahead, sign it, and get it out. So we did that. On a fun note, on Saturday there was 2 ceremonies. It was a pleasure to go to. One was a huge success. It was the dedication of the dog park on Covey Circle. Absolutely blew me away how many people came out to be part of that dedication. They were so excited about the dog park. And the Rotary knocked it out of the park, no pun intended. They did a fabulous job in taking that property and really putting it to good use. And the citizens were just totally enthusiastic, and their pets. And then later that evening, I went to a volunteer firefighters pinning. Volunteer firefighters that had finished their coursework and received their shields, and did that with Chief White. And again, that was a pleasure, and just reinforcing some of the other events the board has commented on. And the board made that a priority to really step things up on volunteer firefighters. It's working, so it is working, and that was a pleasure to be part of that. That's it.
Okay, my turn. Of course, I went to the McClintock hearing on the frogs and toads and frogs on the 6th. On Thursday, the 8th, I went to the Incident Command Center for the Power Fire. I looked at Dodge Ridge a little different than I did before. That place was pretty impressively set up. I don't know where they would have set up if it wasn't for a place like Dodge Ridge to do that. So I've kind of got a new appreciation for Dodge Ridge and as a potential command center for emergency situations in the high country. On the 12th, I met with someone at lunch, talked a little about the jail. I went to Farm Bureau that night. On Tuesday, Natural Resource Committee, I went and sat through the TUD meeting, and then I met with Under Sheriff Pooley about some issues. On Wednesday the 14th, I met with someone, and this is a little problem for me. This guy had some land use concerns. I got him to someone who I think can help him through that, help him through the thought process before he comes back to CRA. But the guy had plans, and we've kind of changed the rules since then, and he's argued about something. We need to work out how we deal with people who kind of get victimized by what we do later. Figure that out. And I met with Vince Estelle briefly, and you'll hear about that meeting in our closed session. I met with the real estate board. Prices are up a little bit on real estate since last year, but the volume is not. It's about steady. Prices are up a little bit. There's some concerns on their part about where we are in the marketplace. I went to the Visitors Bureau, and then I went over and did a Newsmaker of the Day thing on Thursday with Larry Cope and Supervisor Rotifer on issues. On Friday the 16th, I went to a great event, Habitat for Humanity Dedication and Turnover. We have 2 new official residents and homeowners in Tuolumne County. That means they're also on the tax rolls, which is a good thing. You talk about just in time. They closed at 4:15, and they got their keys officially at 6 o'clock in the dedication. That's pretty close. Or got recorded, I mean, at 4:15. They did everything finished. Well, anyway, on the 17th, I would like to have been at that pinning ceremony. I think that's an important thing. But I went up to Kennedy Meadows for a barbecue and met with Senator Berryhill, and that was good. On Sunday, I went to the Habitat thing a few months ago, and a bunch of us bought the dinner, the French dinner, and we went and had that, and that was lots of fun. A little worried about how much smoke and stuff would be coming from the fire, but it wasn't too bad. Earlier it had been, apparently. I was at Motherlode job training, sitting in for the alternate, sitting in for Supervisor Brennan. She's having trouble making that meeting, so we will probably agendize changing the assignment there and making me the delegate and her the alternate for Motherlode job training. She's got, just turns out some of the things are starting to conflict. And then last night I was with the team and Supervisor Gray out at Stryker Court at the EOC as we prepared. We were just dealing with the things. Noticeable absence there was the Forest Service, but we had everybody else there that needed to be there. It was important. I think we did that. So anyway, that's the end of my report. And since we have no other reports, I'll ask the clerk to read items 24 and 25 for closed session.
Closed session, conference with labor negotiators Craig Pedro and friend Art Hardinger, Esquire, Authority Government Code Section 54957.6, all bargaining units, and conference with real property negotiators Craig Pedro, Daniel Richardson, Authority Government Code Section 54956.8, several parcels located at Jamestown Mine, APNs 58227 -30 through 35 and 56001 through 03 and 55980-42.
Okay, I assume we don't expect to report on anything from either session. Okay, where are we going to meet? Council's conference room, okay. We'll recess to a closed session and return later. Thank you.